What's up, Fab? Thanks, brother. Has anybody else upgraded to Windows 11 yet? I just got a message that my Windows 10 doesn't want to be supported anymore. Well, I apologize for not being able to have the external camera so I could screen share this weekend. Unfortunately, I had to hurry up with my retirement and didn't have as much time as I thought I was going to this week. So that will be my task for this upcoming week since I'm not as employed as I was last week. What's up, Jennifer? How you doing? All right. We're going to try to multitask here. What did you guys do for Halloween? You guys do anything cool? Anything fun? Anything special? Alright. Well, we're going to continue to try to multitask. We're going to answer some emails. You hid from the kids? Nice. Did anybody dress up at all? Let's switch this. Listen to the band Ice Swallow Come. I don't think I know that one. Where are you from? Bro, we're from the US of A, baby. We're from America. Jennifer dressed up as an old lady in my pajamas. Honestly, that sounds like the best costume ever. Sounds way more comfortable than what I wore. We all love America, baby. Ambrose, what's up, man? Nimro, how you doing, brother? No, I'm in the United States, but I come from of some Nordic descent, if you will. Yeah. All right. Oh, nice. Ambrose, you got pictures, brother? I don't know if you can share it on this chat, but all right. All right. Let's get in here, answer some people's emails. Oh, God. People are wanting more information for the National Guard SF. If you guys are sending information, or if you're requesting for information for the National Guard SF, put what city and state so I can direct you to the closest National Guard SF recruiter. No way I can direct it much, much better. All right, let's see what's got here. Thank you, Victual. It is, especially if you're gonna spend a lot of hours. Honestly, the Secret Lab chairs are pretty cool. I got it because, well, I was a pretty extensive gamer back in the day. I just kind of kept over, and I just really like the chair. Jennifer, I was not in the SEALs. I was in the Army. Sorry to disappoint. I was never in the Navy. Best men's cologne? Shit, there's so many. Like fucking good ones are like, ooh, you know what's still a good one? Which, like, I honestly really liked the old school Abercrombie one back in the day. Well, I appreciate Takeshi. Jennifer, a story. Huh. I'm trying to think a good story because there's a lot of really shitty ones. Um, well, I'm also trying to think of a story that's also sort of PG. Um, because I feel like a lot of the stories that I could tell on here are not very PG. Um, hmm. Let me think about that for a second. My son was in the army, did 4-year term infantry. Nice, nice, nice. I appreciate you, Christ. Um. All right, Jennifer, I'm gonna come up with one for you. I just gotta think because like the first one that comes off my head, um, well, technically it's a tanning story. Okay, so the ODA that I was a part of, the SF team that I was a part of in Iraq on my first deployment. I was there for like 3 months, and then most of the missions that you do you actually do at night. So you'll go out on raids at night, and then you would do sometimes presence patrols during like the morning, and then we would come back, and usually, a lot of times we were home around the middle of the day, and so we're 12 guys who are out in the middle of nowhere. We have our own team house, which is not in any FOB or any American base at the time, and we have our own compound. So when we were done with raids or presence patrols, we'd come back around like noon. We'd have lunch, and then a majority of the team would go on the roof, and we would tan, because a bunch of white boys, trying to get fit, because when we're excited to come home after the deployment, maybe find look as good as we could. So included working out all the time and tanning. So I get up on top, and I'm pretty new to this team. This is like my first deployment. Been with this team for like 2-3 months, and one of the guys who became one of my closest friends, who really was one of the first people to really kind of like welcome me into the same team, was a guy named Jason. And Jason was like this dude from Texas, completely eccentric, like outgoing, like complete extrovert. And so Jason, I come up one day, and we have all our cots out, and everybody's going to get ready to go tan, and everybody starts laying down. Everybody's got their headphones in. Mind you, this is 2007, so I had a Zune. If anybody remembers Zunes, like this was like back when like around the time the first iPhone came out, right? So this was where we were still using like MP3 players and everything like that. So I'm sitting down, and I turn over, and I'm wearing like what most guys, you either have silkies or ranger panties, whatever you want to call them, and everybody's kind of hiking them up, right? So you can get as minimal of a tan line. And I look over to Jason, who's sitting on the very end cot because I'm the second to end, and I look over, and Jason is butt naked, and he is in the process of taking a tube sock and putting it on to protect his certain parts. And I just was not ready for this. I just happened to look over, and here's this grown ass man right next to me, leg up, completely spread, situating this tube sock. And I immediately started laughing. And he, with the most serious face in a deep Southern Texas accent, he says, Joe, he's like, stop. He's like, I'm serious. He's like, when someone is tossing your salad, do you want to be like, that's wow, that's a white ass, or wow, that's a tanned ass? And he said this with the most straight face. And I was like, I never thought about it. He's like, and he does this, right? He puts his hand on my shoulder and he's like, exactly. And then he goes back to exactly what he's doing. And that was just like one of the most random events. And that's one of the first things that happened that really kind of set the stage, or set the the standard of what being on an SF team was like. So, Jennifer, I hope that answered your. I hope that was a decent story. All right. What's up, Alan from Ghana? Seventh group? No, I was at fifth group for 3 years. Appreciate all of you. You know what's funny? I actually, as a favor to somebody, so I grew up Roman Catholic, and so I grew up Roman Catholic in a very devout Roman Catholic family. My mother was very, very religious. And my mother died when she was about 15. So after that, we stopped going to church. And I honestly have really not been to church in a better part of 25 years. And today, as a favor to a friend, I went to church. First time I went to church in 25 years. But it wasn't a Catholic mass, so it was very different. Anybody who's been to Catholic masses, you guys know like how like ritualized and regimented it is. It's kind of boring. What I went to today was basically a concert, so I can see how other people, it's easier to go to church for some of these other religions, but yeah, I grew up Roman Catholic, so if you fight a battle with the Spetsnaz Russians, who will win? Well, unfortunately, the Russians don't have the level of funding that we do, but that's it's not like you're going to win without casualties. That's a hard fight other ways. Spetsnaz are nothing to overlook. They are one. Russia is a hard country. They're a hardy people, and the Spetsnaz are the best of them. So, are you really a Viking bloodline, or is it just a surname you like to call yourself? Well, supposedly we have Nordic descent, so you know, until I actually get, it's what we're told by our family, Nordic and Irish. So that's where the red beard comes from, and the blonde hair. Well, it's getting darker as I get older, so. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the story, Jennifer. I appreciate you. John Boy McDonough, what's up, man? How you doing, brother? I grew up in a secular family. My parents had a civil marriage. No religion there, yeah. Drew, what's up, man? Coming with a $5, dude. Dude, I appreciate you, brother. Went and visited D-Day, World War II memorials in France. I don't know if you have, but it's breathtaking to see the sacrifice. I have not, and honestly, I think that's definitely one of the things on my bucket list. Now that I am officially retired, um, which is crazy to think about because it's been a part of my life for the last 20 years. Um, that's definitely one of the things that I want to do. So I appreciate you guys. All right. How was the military pay while leaving Nova or living in Nova? So it depends where you're at. Like the BAH, especially if you're stationed around Washington D.C., it's actually pretty good. The BAH is usually about it's about 3 grand, but it also depends if you have children or if you're married and whether you have dependents or not. And obviously, it goes up for that. So, David, what's up, man? How you doing, brother? Absolutely. So, my personal opinion, I don't put much stock into the institutions of religion. Um, you know, for various different reasons, um, and I can get into way more into this, my personal beliefs, but I have seen, and mind you, not we're not talking about faith, we're talking about the institution of religion. That the institutions of religion, I think, are can cause a lot of issues in this world and in history, you know, for a lot of different reasons. But I do think it is important to have faith. So when people ask me what I am, because I grew up in a very religious family, I consider myself agnostic, mainly because I don't I don't know, right? But I also keep an open mind to think maybe there is a higher power, maybe there isn't. I don't know, but the thing is, I think it's important that you put all your faith in yourself, right? And remember that, and don't wait for some higher power to come rescue you or anybody to come rescue you, because nobody's coming, right? You have to do everything yourself, and I think that's very important. And that's the thing that I kind of focus on, and that's where I go towards. And probably one of the biggest differences that I know most amongst a lot of people who are very religious, if you will. Why fifth group compound scattered? It wasn't Stanley McChrystal. It wasn't a. So when you're deployed, like this, at least this was when we were deployed in Iraq, and this was like 2007, 2009. There's a battle zone. Like Iraq is broken up into battle zones, and every battle zone, within each battle zone, there's one SF team, right? There's also conventional regular military, conventional regular army forces, but there's one SF team, and their team houses are either put inside of a fob, or if there's no fob in that area to control that battle space for that one SF team, they will build a team house. And we had a team house that was built in the middle of a province, and our nearest fob, our forward operating base, was 2 hours away. We actually had all our fuel and all our supplies flown to us by Chinook, and so we had in our own compound. So it's us and 12 guys, and we had guards, which we had actually hired from Kurdistan because we were in an Iraqi area, and just so we could have guards that we could trust, we actually outsourced them out of Kurdistan, and they were our house guards. And we had our own landing pad, and Chinooks would come in once a week, bring fuel for the generators and weapons, supplies, food, everything like that. But it was just a team house separated from everything else. Religion and believing in God gives us a gold-plated excuse to stop using our critical thinking. So I definitely think that there is some truth in that, or at least some variation of it. What I really get annoyed is when I hear people like, "Oh, don't worry, such and such religious figure is going to take care of us." Like, no, you can't. Just at the end of the day, nobody's coming. Nobody's coming for you. You got to do everything yourself. What was the physical toll of the Army for you, considering joining the Navy but don't want to be physically crippled by the time I'm 40? So, I guess it's a very good question. So, your physical toll, there's obviously certain things that will put a physical toll on you, but if you take care of yourself, if you stay in shape, you stay fit, and you learn how to do recovery and how to, don't overwork, because you can overtrain easily. So, you don't overtrain, but you obviously still need to push yourself. So, there's a fine line. But then when you do train, and if you do get hurt, one of the worst things that people do is they come back too quickly. You have to take your time, especially when you come in injured, when you've been injured. Re-injury is the worst thing that you can do. So as you're coming through, it's one, always make sure like you always want to stay, you want to be as flexible as you can, you want to be as strong as you can, you want to be as healthy as you can. And then there's so many different ways to do this, but if you just stay on top of that your entire career, you will come out with as little as a broken body as you can, because at the end of the day, you're going to be about at least 40, right? Depending on when you join. So, like me, I've stayed in really good shape my entire career. But I will tell you, even at 40 years old, I'm probably, um, I have a separated AC joint in my right shoulder. I have almost no cartilage in my right knee now, which was not a problem until about 6 months ago. And suddenly my knee just started hurting, and I was doing Bulgarian split squats. And now I can't do Bulgarian split squats because the pain in my knee hurts too much. But other than that, I feel great. Tejas, what's up, brother? Atheist divide us. Yep. See, that's why, like, I remember I was actually in warrant officer school, and they were doing this. I was in one of the classroom portions, and they were doing this exercise, and it was like they put up these different signs in the classroom, and one was agnostic, one was atheist, one was religious, and all these different groups, right? This was an exercise. This was actually a thought exercise, and it was like, go to the group that you think that you belong to. And I've had, at this point, I've been with some of these guys already in warrant officer school and other things. We've made friends, and a lot of these guys, I knew some of them were, atheists, or at least didn't necessarily believe in religion. And then when it came time to choose, a lot of these guys went to the atheist group. And I went to centrally the sign that said agnostic. And they were like, bro, like, I thought you didn't believe in this stuff. I was like, no, it's not that I don't believe in it. I just, like, let me back up. So atheists I find is interesting because I feel like they're just as bad as people who are just so utterly blindly religious, because both of them all share the same thing. Sorry. Is that they blindly believe whatever they're told, right? And I think it is healthy for a person to be a cynic. You need to challenge things. You need to not believe everything you're told, right? For obvious reasons. And I think it's healthy. And that's one of the things I like about being, if you're going to put an archetype to it, being agnostic, is that you're not sure. Like, you are a cynic, right? In both ways. And that's one of the things I like about it, if that makes sense to anybody. Socrates, what's up, brother? How you doing? Kathy Yeager. You wouldn't happen to be married to Sean Yeager, would you? Hi, Pookie. What's up from Russia? Advice for someone trying to start their SF career. I guess, at what point are you at wanting to start? I don't know. There's so many different things with trying your SF career. Your friend's advice, whether you go National Guard, whether you want to go regular Army. I would say that, I would get in, I would do it. I would do, if you get to become a Green Beret, do it for like 5 years, and then get out and then take all that amazing experience that you got from SF and then take it to the civilian world. And the civilian world is going to appreciate your experience from being in SF way more than you staying in SF and continuing that career. And that's my personal opinion. Stanley McChrystal, did you go to Sephardic? I did not. Atheism takes more faith than believing in God. That's true. That's true. The thing is, you're like, and I feel like it's almost like hypocrisy, it's almost like hypocrisy, because like atheists like claim like, oh, these people are super religious that are like, they think they know for sure. Well, technically atheism is just the opposite version of that, but they think they know for sure, which I find, I think it's good in life to have a healthy level of cynicism. I think that's how you pronounce it. Being a cynic, like, just question everything, right? Like, we all, like, you've heard this from all these other soft guy chats and videos and other YouTube creators, like, about how, even Sean Ryan, about how we were lied into that war. I know that most of us, we were all believed, like 2007, 2003, 2010, we all believed we were there for the right reasons. And later on, we found out that we were lied to. So, it's one of the many reasons why I believe that you should question everything and don't be afraid to. Yes, Jennifer, if you come back every day, I will tell you a new story. That is a promise. So I promise I will, and I'll think about this too. Obviously, I don't really want to go into like war stories or anything like that, but I do think that there is definitely a healthy level of stories with a lot of humor in them of how funny and stupid life can be, especially in the soft community. Drew, are you at terminal leave right now? Or are you officially done? No, I am actually officially done. I retired officially as of yesterday, as of November 1st. Balalaka, I'm going to be an 18 X-ray. That's the way to do it. Just get in there as soon as possible. I know that there was a lot of, people, before the 18 X-ray program. A lot of people believed like there was a lot of good that would come out of um, SF guys spending time in the regular army so they could know what like really kind of sucky life was like. And I understand the thought process behind it, and I definitely agree with it. But the problem is, SF is so short on people that unfortunately they need the 18 X-ray program to survive. Advice for passing SFAS. Um, be be in rucking shape, be in good shape, be able to ruck. No land nav, right? The star course is no joke. A lot of people, if they're not if you're physically in shape, I would say the thing that gets most people is the star course, which is the land navigation portion of SFAS. Um, so and then just don't quit, right? And also don't be an asshole, right? Because you don't want, like, you want to be a team player. Like, don't be that guy and you don't want to get like peered out and these peer evaluations and stuff like that. Like, be a good teammate, don't be a prima donna, and just don't quit. Like, no matter what happens, just don't quit. If you do that and you're decent at land having and passing it, like, it's not that hard. Fab, thank you. Yeah, that's every time I make these videos, I go back and watch them. And one of the things I always notice is, and I've been trying to do it, is I touch my nose, right? And I know some people might think it even looks like I'm picking my nose, but I'm not. It's a tick that I do, which I just flick it. And yeah, see, I keep doing this one too. I need to stop that. So we're getting slowly better. Fab, I'm really glad that you noticed. Drew, are you going to take a year off? No, as a matter of fact, I am actually already in the process of my next career. So I am actually I'm doing a number of different things, but one of the things I'm doing is I'm becoming a private wealth advisor. So I'm in the process of right now. I'm studying for my Series 66 exam right now. And then hopefully when I officially get hired here in the next shortly, I will then take my Series 7 exam and then I will be gainfully employed. But I'm also doing this other stuff, like I really enjoy the YouTube type stuff. We're making videos. And then I also do personal training. So I have a number of clients that I train here locally, and I am about to get my online training program or online personal training program up and going. Hopefully, I'll have everything done this week. I joined the Catholic Church of my own free will, and when I was a teenager, I then took the church on single-handedly. I made them excommunicate me, and now I'm an atheist. Julie Gill, Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah, so I had a falling out with the Catholic Church around the time my mother died. So she was 15. For anybody who wasn't here, my mother was very religious. So she was a very devout Catholic. She actually went to church every single day. So She died when I was 15, and she was the main reason that we were going to church. So when she passed away, we kind of stopped going. And I was in the process of getting confirmed. And I remember that, like, I didn't really want to go to church anymore, but as a favor, my father told me, he's like, hey, you should still get confirmed. It's what your mother would want. And I continued with the process for a little bit. But then I basically got pretty much almost like thrown like out of the church. Not really thrown out of the church, but basically nobody wanted me around because like within a couple months, my mother had just passed away, right? And everybody loved my mother at this church. And some girl who was, I guess, attracted to me, like when I'm 15, right? She was like a bigger girl, right? And one of her friends was like, "Hey, don't you like this girl?" And I was like, "Well, I'm just really into athletic." I was in every single sport. I was a freshman on varsity as a soccer player, and I was like, "Look, I'm just not attracted to her. She's not athletic." And then they got around that this girl started telling everybody that I thought this girl was fat, just because of this one comment. I basically got thrown out of church, and I was like, "Isn't religion and church supposed to be about forgiveness instead of just?" Granted, my mother had just died, so that's kind of like I. From there, I didn't get confirmed, and then I kind of went on this spiritual journey of discovering other religions because I didn't really know Catholicism at this point, and then it led me to like I was dating a girl, I think it was Baptist at the time, went to Baptist church. What I ended up finding, and I went through this whole journey, and I eventually found myself studying Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism. And the one I probably think that fascinated me the most, which I feel like still to this day, you really respect some of the teachings and how they relate to life, is Buddhism, right? Because one of the first common misconceptions that people think is a religion. It's not a religion. It's a way of thinking, right? And I like some of the concepts, like, most religions be like, you're born into this world, right? Just the way that that's said. But Buddhism is like you're born from it, right? This whole concept of the circle of life. You're not special. You're just a part of this process. So there's a lot of things. And if anybody knows anything about Alan Watts, he's deceased now, but he's got a lot of great videos on YouTube because they took a lot of his lectures when he was a professor at Oxford, because he's specialized in bringing Eastern religions, mainly Buddhism, Hinduism, to the Western to teach them in the West. And you can learn a lot about Buddhism and Hinduism just from listening to Alan Watts' lectures. Zeke, when did UVA do this? When did they do this study about children remembering past lives? They say that's real. But like advice for anyone going to 18 X-rays trying the special forces career: be in shape and just don't be ready. Whatever you do, just never quit. Be in shape and never quit. You're pretty much good to go. And don't be horrible at land. Drew, were you ever stationed in Fort Carson? I was not. So the only places I've actually really been stationed, so my first duty station outside of initial training was Fort Campbell, Kentucky, when I got assigned to 5th Group. And then from there, I went to selection for the Tier 1 unit, and that brought me to Washington, D.C. And I have basically been in the Washington, D.C. area since, minus my stint in flight school when I went down for warrant officer school, and to go down to fly UH-72 Lakotas and Blackhawks. Nahid Feroz, Salam, Halishamashitori. Berodar, Shamashitori. Farsi Baladid? Feroz? All right. Do we lean towards 271K or 6? I don't know what that means. Yoga has been a game changer for me because I have to get a hip replacement eventually. Yeah, I'll actually be the first one to tell you. If you guys are not, as grown ass people doing yoga, you're wrong. Like you should do it. Like I do yoga, and especially there's one of the coolest things. Like when you're like a fit dude, especially if you're pretty decently sized person, and you're in there and you actually know yoga and you're doing really good. Like that shit's impressive, to be honest. So if I have any advice to anybody, like in top of like doing strength training, doing calisthenics, do some yoga, man. That really work, and it is a workout. Like I feel like I am more sore after yoga than I am of any of my strength workouts. Drew, why can't you run long distance anymore? Injury? Ramona, hello from Germany. What part of Germany? I actually lived in Germany when I was a kid. I actually lived there from basically about from I lived there. I lived in Germany until I was about 13. My father was stationed in Germany for over 10 years. Is it true that seventh group sees more combat than fifth group? No, it just all depends on the time. Like back in between 2003 and 2010, fifth group saw more combat than fifth group saw more combat than seventh group. But that's mainly because the major conflicts were in the fifth group area, which was Iraq, and then also third group was Afghanistan. So seventh group actually found they would actually take turns to help relieve fifth group and third group during that time. But it's all about because each group has their own different area of responsibility. So whoever's got a conflict in there, generally they're going to be the ones who see more combat. So it all depends on what's going on in the world. Perpeter, being agnostic is the most sensible option based on the evidence of both sides. Absolutely, because the thing is, at the end of the day, we don't know. There's supporting evidence that sort of like looks both ways, but you cannot be to be 100% sure about anything. I feel like you can't it's kind of like the wrong way to look at it. You should always be like even if you're pretty sure that you're right, you should be able to look like maybe there's something that we're not quite getting, right? Because we don't know. Like you look at the history of knowledge, we have changed, we have thought a certain way about anything. Like you can take the way we look at nutrition, right? When I was growing up, there was a food pyramid. And if everybody remembers the food pyramid, the basis of the food pyramid was like wheats, right? Which now we realize that that was completely and utterly wrong, right? And obviously there's some other things behind it why the food pyramid became the basis of nutrition, and now it's obviously so horrible because now that we better understand it, because obviously there's a whole thing about sugar lobbies and everything like that. Long story, but important part is be a cynic. Don't just believe everything you hear. Question it, right? But do it from good faith. Like have those arguments, be prepared. And like if someone disagrees with you, have a conversation about it because you'll be surprised. Someone might know something more about it or know something that you don't know. And then it might actually better to help you to understand your position on that particular issue, if that makes sense. Nigeria, I've been watching your video for a minute now. I'm going into state patrol, and even though I won't be a soldier, your video skills helps. Absolutely. And to be honest, the police, like just as an organization, are really not that much different than the military. There's a lot of similar things, and actually things are designed in a similar way. And you can use a lot of this, right? It doesn't just have to be the military. Obviously, there's a lot of like nuances that are going to be, especially people who have been in the military, are going to quite understand and maybe relate to a little bit more. But you can use this towards anything, especially careers that are very similar. I would say the police are probably one of the career paths that's probably mirrors or as similar as can be as the military is. So absolutely, you can definitely use it. Are there 18 alphas who leave and cross over to ground branch once their operational time is done? Yes. Yes, there is, Lazarus. Um, so my older brother, was an 18 alpha, and he almost went a similar route, almost went to tier one for selection, but he had a wife, and I can't remember if he had a kid at the time, but he had the option, obviously, to either go to tier one or eventually go to ground branch. But he decided to get out for family reasons. So, but I do know some people who have went over there. Usually, it's an interesting career track because the 18 alphas kind of get screwed because once they take a team, an ODA, they have limited time for a team because and once their team time starts, like it's generally 2 years, but sometimes it's longer for various different reasons. But once they get that team for that 2 years, and then once they're done and their time is up and they get replacement on their 18 alpha, they never actually ever get a team ever again. So it's the only time they ever get to be an ODA, which is the really kind of shitty part about being an officer in Army Special Operations. Like if you actually want to be an operator for more than 2 years, you need to be enlisted, or eventually even a warrant officer. But basically need to be enlisted. What's up, Chris Triple D? How you doing, brother? Goober YouTube, bro. We're just talking. We're celebrating my retirement and anything you guys want to questions. And then if anybody didn't know, the reason why the reason why I had a 6-week hiatus is because I got put under investigation for my YouTube. Somebody from my old organization complained. And so they had to do an investigation. And obviously I wasn't worried because everything that I put out, I did my due diligence and I made sure was publicly accessible information. And of course, that's what they found out when they've done the investigation. But I wasn't allowed to post for like 6 weeks. So, but I'm retired now, so, whatever. They can't touch me anymore. Thanks, Lazarus. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you too, Tejas. How does it feel to be retired? To be honest, I've been kind of checked out for a while, and I was gonna make a video about this. It's very important. The people who I feel like struggle with either leaving the military, and you can also relate this to any other profession, don't attach your identity to your profession. And a lot of people do that in the military. So when they get out, because their identity is like part of being in the military, and when they no longer have it, they struggle, right? And to be honest, I did this at one point. I remember I had this issue in flight school because some stuff got rough for me during flight school. And when I felt like I was failing in so many different ways, whether it was personal, professional, one of the things that I realized that why I slipped in such a bad state of depression was because all these things that in my life that were now going wrong, I had tied my identity to them. And that's something you don't want to do, because like what happens if you lose that or whatever reason. I think if you're going to attach your identity to anything, it should be your own character, like who you are as a person, not what you do as a profession, because that's going to change. Especially for someone who's changed their career like 3 times just within the military. I'm about to change my career, obviously, again. It's very important to be fluid with that portion of yourself, because it's not what you do, it's who you are. So I hope that makes sense. Gian, what's up, man? How you doing? Teos, I'm the only person I know who admits to struggling with land nav. Look, I'll tell you, when I went to, so I've always thought I was very good at land nav. Like, for example, I think I set when I was there, when I was doing WLC at Fort Campbell, I set like the, what do you call it? The course record, right? But it's like you could basically see that you would dead wreck into all these land navigation points. And then I went to selection and I made it. And then a part of our training course, we actually for our OTC, we actually do our tactical portion where Delta does their selection. And so we actually did we do land navigation on their courses that they do selection on. So that's how I'm very familiar with Delta Force's land navigation courses. And for the first time in my entire career, I got my very first point and I couldn't find it. And at this, remember, I thought I had been good at land nav my entire career. And I was humbled so badly my first day at a Delta Force selection land nav course, and I couldn't find the first point. I felt like an idiot. So eventually I figured out what was wrong. I was successful all the days after that, but never have I not found a point. And the very first day, I couldn't find the first point. If you don't find the first point, you don't get any points because that is what leads you to the other point. So I basically stood in one area for about 3.5 hours until the time standard was over. I felt it was the only time I've ever failed a land navigation course. So you can be very, very humbled. What were the biggest reasons you saw guys get kicked out of SF besides drugs, which unfortunately is a thing? People being douchebags. Yeah, don't be a dick. Unfortunately, some of those guys stay around too long too. Yeah, just be a great teammate. Like do your job. Always look forward to training. If that's what you're gonna do, you're gonna train a lot. And yeah, and don't do drugs. Islamic Hub, what's up, brother? Melissa, you sound rich. You just need that UK accent. Yeah. I can't do a UK accent. I can do a decent Irish accent too, though. Interesting, Gian. Interesting though, as you retire, you still not want to change like selling at a home or a new hobby. Yeah, well, wait, let me reread that. Not completely if I'm understanding your question correctly, but I will say that it's always going to have new hobbies, and then two, it's good to try new things in life. Like you don't want to just be somebody who spent 40 years in one single career because that's the only thing you know. Like there's so much in life. Why would you just stick with one thing, right? Like you become so much more well-rounded of an individual by doing other things, right? Trying new things. Don't be comfortable, right? You need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you do that, like you're going to be so much more successful in life. It's crazy. So what does he believe now? Raya, are we talking about religion? What's up, Alvin? Appreciate you. Melissa, what did you find? So you skipped actual religion and chose Buddha. No, I didn't actually choose that. No. So I'm a very open-minded person and I like to take things from various different things and helped, I guess, over time become an accumulation of what I believe, right? Because I don't just believe what I learned early on. I'm not just going to believe what someone tells me to believe. I was going to figure it out, right? And over my course of my career and life, I have developed essentially, you can call my faith in things, whether it's just myself, whether it's a higher power, which don't know if there is one or not, or there's certain concepts in Buddhism which actually are very similar to a lot of concepts in Stoicism, right? Which is one, remembering that you are the person who's in charge. Like you control only you and yourself. But you also have to understand your insignificance within the universe, right? We are just a tiny speck of a speck within the grander scheme of this entire universe, right? Just on this one planet, on this, this one solar system in this one galaxy. You have to understand, like, and then as time goes, like when you pass, like whether or not there is an afterlife and you think there is one, you have to basically, would it be nice that there is one? Yeah, possibly. But you kind of have to live life like there is no afterlife, right? That's my personal belief. So I'm not a Buddhist, but I like certain tenets and concepts within Buddhism that I feel like can help people in any religion or everything you believe, really. So for me, religion must give happy change upon retire. There's a theory that Jesus was a Buddhist. I've actually heard that theory. It's actually kind of a really interesting theory. Gee, and you can't do academics all the time, bro. Absolutely. You got to get out there. Like you obviously learn as much as you can, but you're not going to learn as much until you actually experience the real world, experiencing doing stuff, getting in trouble, making mistakes. That's what you got to do. Yeah, I learned a lot once I read the Bible and found out how much religion was incorrect. There's a lot of, you have to remember that, let's just say let's take a little thought exercise. Let's just say that the religion was that there is a God, and then religion was, the Bible is a book of the Word of God, right? Was it written by God? No, it wasn't. It was written by a human being who has their own biases and own views on things. And then it was translated by many other human beings who have their own biases and different views on things. And so you basically get a lot of people, as we know how human nature is, it's going to get changed, right? And this is just under the thought exercise that it is the Word of God, right? So that's one of the issues that I have with the particular physical Bible or whatever book from whatever religion that you claim or that you follow. And also you look at the history, right? If you look at the history of most, like a lot of atrocities and probably almost every war in the history of mankind, most of them are because of religion, right? So think about that. It's just nice to sell, sell, sell. You know what? I need to stop doing that. We need a light. There we are. 7-Eleven, since you just retired, what are your plans for the future? I am in the process of doing a couple different things. One, I'm in the process of becoming a private wealth advisor. Two, I'm in the process of launching my personal training business, right? So like I'm currently personally training a number of people in the local area, but I'm about to launch the online portion of my personal training. And then also I'd like to do other things involving, the social media, YouTube. Like I'm really enjoying YouTube and making the videos. And now that I'm retired, I will have more time to get better at this, right? Get better at the editing, hooking up better cameras, making the material just better, just the content in general, right? So you guys should hopefully start to see a marketable improvement in the content that I start putting out. So, because, yeah. So the last few months with everything that's been going on, with YouTube, this investigation, everything like that, it's been a little hectic, but now that I'm fully retired, I can now concentrate on the things that I want to concentrate. And one is making better and better content for this channel. John Smoot, what's up, brother? All the way from Cleveland. The UVA studied in the 1960s and still going on, thousands of children. It sounds like an interesting subject. That, especially because of the concept of, our, what is it, reincarnation, whether or not people, is that a thing, because there is an interesting thing just within clones, right? Like, so I'm in Polo, and in Polo, there's cloned horses, right? There's people cloning horses in Polo. And there's an interesting thing because a lot of the cloned horses that are coming up, they're actually learning the skills that who they're the original copy or the original horse, they're learning it quicker than the original did. So that's kind of interesting. It might even go along with that same sort of concept. Hopefully JFK gets the food pyramid revised. That's their plan. Yeah. It's just like physics. Do you want $100 and 50? 100, right? Allah Akbar. Okay. Can you talk about how to stay focused? It's a good question because I'm pretty sure, even though I've never been diagnosed, I'm pretty sure I have ADD or ADHD or whichever one is which. I should honestly look up which one is which. So when I am talking about it, at least I say the right one. But you have to, for me, I have to remove distractions. But I also like a sort of, what works really well for me is I set timers. I set a timer and I'm like, hey, I'm working straight for 45 minutes. Nothing else. I'm allowed to do anything else for those 45 minutes. That personally really helps me. But just staying focused. And then also, what really helps is like every single day, like instead of thinking about this, like you say, you have this giant goal that's going to take like a year to do it, right? Set little goals along the way. Like, okay, what's my goal for today? And if you can put the little small goals, it makes it that much easier. And then you're going to help get some of that, that release of those good chemicals. And it was like oxytocin, I think it is. And that will help you to continue to have that better motivation. At the end of the day, discipline beats motivation every single time. But just having those little goals along the way, like daily goals, like, hey, this is what I'm meeting, this is what I'm doing today. And that will help you to get to that larger, bigger goal. Because when you think about the bigger goal, sometimes it can be kind of daunting. And that can be demotivating, if you will. Nigeria, I hope that hope that answered your question. I believe my religious beliefs are mine personally. I will say that when I face challenges, I prayed for strength. No, that's a good point. And I was actually having this conversation today with a few people that I did go to church with, right? And because I think that everybody, whenever you hear someone who's like, "Oh, Jesus, take the wheel," or like, um, people who aren't going to do anything because they just they believe this higher power is going to take care of them, right? Like I think that's where everybody kind of just rolls their eyes. But yeah, you can definitely be religious and you can have faith. And then the important part is, and you've probably heard it quite a bit, if when people ask for strength, they're not going to give you strength. They're going to give you, the Lord is going to give you obstacles that will make you stronger, right? And I think if you go along like with that thought process, that's much better. That's the way to do it versus thinking that someone's going to come and save you, because nobody's going to come and save you. And I'm just going to say that I'm going to say that all the time. I don't care, because that is so true. Nobody's coming to save you. You have to do it yourself. That's all you can rely on. It's you. It's your life. You're the only one living it. So did I visit Tel Aviv before? I have actually. I actually went to a wedding in Tel Aviv. So I met some really cool Israelis on a trip in Mexico and got along with them really, really well. And me and one of my buddies wanted to go visit Tel Aviv, and we made friends with these people that we met in Mexico who were from Israel, and we just happened the weekend that we were coming. One of their friends was getting married, and so we showed up. And 4 days I was in Tel Aviv. I got to go to a wedding, this cool venue, like right on the water. And one of the coolest parts about it was, as soon as we walked into the reception, like we came down the aisle for the reception and into where the whole reception was, they were playing Sweet Home Alabama, which I thought was super cool. Raya, faith should come from objective truth, which is the being that created the universe. So having different ideologies and being Zen, etc., is all well and good, but being dogmatic isn't bad a thing either. Yeah, I think that there is, everything should be done in moderation, right? Like whether your beliefs, I just don't think you should ever be like a fanatic in any whatever spectrum that you might find yourself in. That's where I keep going back to like a good, have faith in things, but also have a good level of skepticism. I think that's the word I was thinking of earlier. Be a skeptic, if that makes sense. I feel like it helps me in a lot of different ways, whether it's, being self-sufficient, um, not getting screwed over by people, be a skeptic, you know, like anytime you're having a conversation with somebody, what does this person want out of me, right? That's actually a really good exercise that they treat you in like in human intelligence training, right? Whenever you're meeting somebody, you're meeting somebody or you're talking to somebody, a game that you should play or a thought exercise that you should play is like, what does this person want from me? And if you can do that, and if you can think about that, you can probably you'll be like in control of that conversation, if you will. You will understand essentially what somebody wants, and if you do that, then you can control the conversation. You can control many different aspects of that relationship. Stefano, what's up, brother? How you doing? Greetings from Malaysia, Nazarena. Glad everybody can make it. I am from the United States, Nazarena. Did you get all your service connection appointments done before you got out, or do you still have to go to appointments? I got most of them done. There's a couple other things that I still have to get done for personal stuff because I still have to get my. I'm not done with my disability rating yet, so that's a work in progress. But other than that, I got most of everything done. Ritish Gaming, what's up, man? How you doing, brother? I remember doing Red Diamond at night. The course kicked my ass. What's Red Diamond? Israel, is he real? Which branch were you in, sir? I was in the Army. I was in the Army for 20 plus years. How do you deal with traumatic events? I think mental framing. Are you going to let these things define who you are? Because bad stuff happens to everybody. And, there's this video that actually I probably is going to release here in the next couple of days. And it's a video, I forget, I think it might have been Alex Hormozy and Chris Williamson talking about the difference between the hero and the villain story. And it's really like when something happens to you, heroes let it change them for the better, like turn them into the better person, like, hey, I'm not going to let this happen to me or anybody else. Villains, they take that pain and then they want to crush everybody else, for it. So it's like, so I guess what I'm saying is like how you frame it and because bad stuff is going to happen to you, right? It's just life. It's human nature. It's going to happen. It's how you learn from it, how you define it, how you frame it is how anything that bad happens to you, is it going to make you stronger or is it going to make you worse of a person? So a stoic Viking makes no logical sense. Well, some things in life don't make sense, man, including random brand names that I just came up with, if you look like a Viking and you like stoicism, you know what? That makes sense. If it doesn't make sense to you, sorry, brother, I don't know what to tell you. I'm a Taoist and practice Buddhism. We are only a grain of sand on a large beach. Yep, that's definitely one of the things I teach. Giga Chad op person. The concept of Giga Chads is hilarious. Hello from Russia. What's up, brother? I don't really know the Cyrillic alphabet, so I don't even know how to pronounce that. That is factually incorrect. Ewan, what is factually incorrect? said hi. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing, brother? Of course. Dirt Tina, that's funny. Saxon's clear. Do you smoke cigarettes? I do not. I will occasionally smoke cigars. What did you do wrong during the Delta land nav? So I talk about this, and I've said this numerous times in the videos, right? When we're talking about land navigation, you need to know terrain association, and I did not quite understand terrain association, at least not very well, and I didn't really put it into practice that first day. So the second day after I failed the first day, I went back and I was like, "Hey, I can't dead reckon anything out here. I have to use terrain association." So I went in with it with a better understanding of what I had to do instead of trying to dead reckon. And that's why I keep in all these land navigation videos. I'm like, you have to terrain associate. You have to terrain associate. And I know this the hard way. So, yeah, terrain association. You cannot dead reckon in the hills of the mountains of West Virginia. I'll just tell you that right now. Yeah, Zeke, yeah, that's like one of the things about interesting about religion. They say something for a little bit and then they change their mind depending on whatever the political or sociological climate is. Just take the church's view on homosexuality and other things like that, and various different things that they've changed over the years. Let's go back up to this. I need to know exactly what was said here. 1 second. All right, remember, I can't find it, whatever. Am I pagan? No, I'm agnostic. Cow, damn, you're jacked. Well, I appreciate you, brother. I do try to go to the gym quite a bit. You don't have to be a pagan and Viking and being able to be constant. I think you're taking this, all you guys are taking this Viking shit way too fucking literally. It is just literally supposedly of Nordic descent. What are the Nordic people known for? Vikings. I'm 6'2", 230 pounds. I'm pretty much, I think, almost the exact same size as Chris Hemsworth. So, I am part Irish, so that's why I have the red beard. And I like stoicism. It's really not that hard, guys. Google's most influential person in the world. Well, it's definitely the. What was that other one before Google was like super big? Oh, Ask Jeeves. That was a fun one. But Google is the most visited website in the world. Raya, I personally think your ideology of picking and choosing is inherently selfish. Hyper skepticism is just as annoying as blind faith. Okay, so first of all, you've already kind of torpedoed your own argument, right? If I say, so to be skeptic, right, is completely different than blind faith, because the difference between where both atheists and super religious people, where they have in common is blind faith. Atheists have blind faith that there isn't a God. Blind people who are super religious have blind faith that there is a God, right? Skeptics are in the middle, or someone who is skeptic essentially about everything. So you already can't be equivalent to someone with blind faith, because a skeptic is the opposite of blind faith. And atheists are on the opposite spectrum of that while still maintaining blind faith. Because the faith can cover all sorts of different things. And you know what? Life is selfish, right? Because I only have one life to live. I'm going to do what's best for me. I am, because I do care about people. I will try to make my decisions and be as considerate as other people. But at the end of the day, it's your life. Nobody else is coming for you. Nobody else is going to help you. right? You can't, at least you can't rely on it. Someone might help you along the process, but you cannot rely on it. You have to put all your faith in yourself, right? If you want to believe in a higher power, you're more than welcome to. It's whatever you want. But at the end of the day, it's you. It's only you who's controlling what's going on with you, how you think. So yeah, it's completely okay to be selfish because it's your life and nobody else is living that life except you. Can a 15-year-old gamble? Don't think so. Quick firearms questions. Is a 16-inch really that cumbersome? 16-inch of what? Uh, you know what, Stefano? If you want to answer that question, because I'm not a gambling expert, Google it. Because I'm pretty sure Google will answer that way before I can. Darnell Figueroa, appreciate you, brother. I look up to you, brother. Took a chance and submitted my packet to SMU. Look, that's all we can do in life is take chances. And I appreciate you, anybody who goes out and, will try something and I'll be honest, that stuff's scary, especially you're putting in a packet to go to selection for these units that you really don't know that much about. Like, you're basically taking a blind faith and jumping into something that you really don't quite understand. And you won't even quite understand it until after you've made it through selection, which even then you won't. Then you'll go through OTC, and then once you're done with OTC, then you'll get into the unit, and then you'll start to understand what it's about. But that's a long time. So, Eric, what's up, brother? How you doing? Are you an actual Viking? I come from Norwegian descent. So you're probably actually more of a Viking than I am. But I appreciate you coming in here, brother. Wood chopping is better than going to the gym, apparently, especially for forearms. Well, there's a lot of things that, typically, but you know what you can do? You can go take a sledgehammer in a gym and go hit a tire, which does the exact same motion as wood chopping, but you can do it quicker, you can do it faster, because every single time you hit a piece of wood, well, maybe if you hit it through every single time, but occasionally you're gonna have to take that piece out and you're just not gonna be able to get reps. So you can actually do the exact same workout better in a gym, like most things, because that's what they're optimized for. Red Diamond is that Benning did it for light leadership pre-ranger back in the day. Are you going to make pre-prep videos for certain schools? I was going to. So I had a list, right? So I had this kind of all before I got investigated, and I had to do my little 6-week hiatus. I had a poll where I had a list of schools that what people wanted me to make videos about, and I will start doing that again, and people can start voting for the subjects, which is one of the reasons why everybody voted for me to explain the different types of the selections, the tier 1 versus the tier 2 selections, and how to pass those selections. And then the next video that everybody voted for was the National Guard SF video and why it's a hidden gem. So I'm going to keep doing that. I do need to get out this last video before I start doing that, because I am doing my workout, like my concepts of like what I'm currently doing for workouts, what I have done for workouts, and then I probably, whether or not I can combine because I want to do a video about progressive overload and how to do it properly. That will either be in the workout video or I'm going to do it right after it, because I want to get that out, because I've already done the nutrition video. That once I get out the workout video, I can start posting my actual workouts. That way you can see this stuff in action and like how I've made the progress. So I need to get these videos out so they can be understood of how they do them. Like I have like the Google Keeps that keeps track of all my workouts, the weights, the reps, and everything like that. And you can see the weekly progression that I go through. And some weeks, obviously we progress, some weeks we fail, and then we come back down, we redo it, and we continue and we attack the process over and over again. So long story short, I need to finish this workout video this week, and then we're going to start doing the polls where we can do other subjects. So, and one of them will be people can vote for specific selections that people want prep for, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. I know it was a long-winded answer. Zulu, at all the years I've been here and figuring out the truth from lies, we have been told skepticism is the best way to go, in my opinion. Absolutely. For, like I said, for somebody who has, blindly believed in things before, right? Almost every time I've ever blindly believed in something, I think you kind of get screwed over, whether it's, government, family, anything. If you are skeptic, like, it's just, you have to have an open mind in life, right? Because you're told what to believe, what to think, right? And that's by other people, right? So it's just make up your own mind, right? Go through life, experience life, because that's really where like true, I feel like like really where truth actually lies. Is what you see, is your truth, right? And I have learned more about what I believe personally when it comes to religion through my own interactions with religion throughout the world and throughout my life. And that's what's led me to shape what we will call my faith, right? And definitely my faith is probably a strong faith in skepticism. Zulu 16-inch barrel length of what? An M4? I signed up for MMA classes to do you have any advice, Zimmerman? MMA classes are awesome. Like, first of all, the boxing. So boxing, because you're going to be doing probably like Muay Thai, you're going to be doing boxing, and you're probably doing wrestling and probably some jiu-jitsu, right? The boxing, like getting good at fighting from your feet and getting boxing, like I cannot stress this enough how amazing, one, of a workout it is, and then two, how much of a better fighter it will make you be, because in boxing it's not just about throwing hands, it's more about movement, right? And if you're a great boxer and you know how to move, people can't even touch you, right? It's so impressive. And that's one of the most amazing things about boxing. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear this, but like someone's just like blowing up my phone right now and super texting. So, I will tell you that especially when you're doing the boxing portion, most people are not used to throwing that many punches, and you're gonna get really sore up in the shoulders. But I would say the biggest piece of advice is stick with it, right? Like there's just so much you can learn from, like, MMA is a great collaboration of some of the best, most effective martial arts, which is boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and probably Muay Thai. John W., was the first thing you've planned to do after not being restricted by UCMJ? Maybe some Zaza. If Zaza, Teos, that's a good question. What is Zaza? I'm assuming it's weed. I don't know. Raya, I'm not a Christian. I use history, science, philosophy, basic logic to come to a conclusion of objective true faith. We fully never understand everything, but that's what the way God exists. So I believe, I actually agree with like majority of your statement, because I use history, I use science, I believe, philosophy, basic logic is a must to conclude the objectives of truth, faith, and that's absolutely right. Like, that's what you should do. We should never fully understand everything, but that's why God exists. So that right there at the end is where I'm definitely okay with that statement, but also if he does exist, right? And because that's where like my skepticism then comes in, and probably might be different than a lot of you others, is like there is a possibility, right? And it very well could. And in a lot of ways, I would like it for it to be true, but I'm also going to have a little bit of skepticism when it comes to it. Healthy level of skepticism, I like to think. So I would say that would be the difference. But honestly, I agree with like 95% of what you said there. Love your page, man. Xander, love your page, man. I'll be going to SFRE in December. Dude, that's awesome. Well, good luck, brother. And then after that, then hopefully you'll be joining the X-ray program, then SFAS, then the Q course, and then you'll be sitting there one day on graduation day with an awesome green beret on your head. Apparently, I need to turn this thing back on. Cyber and hey, did we just start? We have been going nickel for about an hour and 20 minutes, and my phone is so we are going to get dictated on timing based on my. I guess I might have a cord here to plug this thing in. All right, we'll see. It's more like I'd much rather watch this guy work out. Well, Raya, I appreciate you. Is this Captain America? I wish, man. Were you a gear snob when you were at the teams? No, I was not a gear snob, and to be honest, I never have been, and I never will be. You know, to me, a tool, when it comes to gear, right? People get, I think, too hyper focused on like what like they really super like. Everything is a tool. Like there's a time and place for everything. Like every weapon system, every piece of gear that you could have, it's a tool, right? And is it good for every situation? Absolutely not. So you have to go into each mission looking at examining what is the best weapon system for me to take? What are the best attachments to take? What is the best like setup? Am I going to be wearing armor? Am I not going to be wearing armor? Am I wearing how much ammo I'm going to bring? It's all needs to be everything needs to be assessed for every situation, and you just go from there. Other than that, everything's a tool in a toolbox, if you will. What do warrants at the unit do? To be honest, I didn't really know any warrants outside of the aviation dudes at the unit. So from an operation, no, there was a few other ones. But there actually are not that outside of the aviation portion of things. There's not that many. At least I don't remember immediately meeting that many. There was a few. Yeah, there was a few actually. It reminds me of Hulkenberg. Are you Chuck Norris' son? I wish, brother. I wish I could kick that well. Sean, what's up, brother? How you doing? What's up? Came across your live one stream once again. Well, I'm glad it's coming up. I'm liking what everybody's doing. I'm really appreciating everybody. Do you believe in God? I am agnostic, Beatum. Which basically, for anybody who's not familiar with the term, because I grew up super religious, I'm not quite sure there is a God. There might be. I'm open to the fact that there might be or is. I don't put all my faith in a higher power. I put all my faith in myself because I believe that nobody is coming for you, and that's the best way to go about life. Would it be awesome to find out that, like, hey, there is a higher power who has been looking after me? Absolutely. But I'm not going to rely on it. Or am I going to? Yeah, if that makes sense. What do you have to lose? Joe Time, if you're talking about the religion in reference to that, I just think that, and not everybody does this, granted. Obviously, I know some of the worst people that do it, the ones who say, like, Jesus, take the wheel and things like that. But I just concentrate on putting faith in yourself. That's about it. Can you do 20 plus push-ups? Yeah, typically when I would do the normal Army PT test, the normal one, not the one where you're doing the spread, I would usually get around 80 to 90 push-ups in 2 minutes time frame. Dakota, what's up? What's up, Unc? How's Cassie doing? I'm assuming you mean Callie. Callie is doing very, very well. She is 2.5 weeks into her treatment. Her cancer markers are down, and you guys want to see if Callie will come out here? Callie, come here. Come here. All right, Callie's about to make a surprise appearance on the stream. Come here. Everybody, this is Callie. Callie is my best friend. Here, which side do you want? You want this side? You want this side? Oh. Yeah. So, look, see, and Callie can talk into the mic. She's the strong silent type. Callie is a pit bull mixed with a blue heeler. So she's a gray brindle, and if you guys know anything about blue heelers, they typically have these really pointed bat ear looking things, and so that's why she's a cool pit bull. So you want to say hi to the people, Kelly? So for anybody who doesn't know, Callie currently was diagnosed with cancer 2.5 weeks ago, and we have her. She's going through chemo treatment, and she's actually doing very, very well. I believe we caught it in time. It was lymphoma, and it had not reached her organs yet. So it looks like it looks like we caught it in time. So, well, thank you. I appreciate it. All dogs go to heaven. Absolutely. Honestly, we don't deserve dogs. Emerson de Silva, all the way from Brazil, appreciate you. Ganesh, I appreciate you, and Callie appreciates a compliment as well. I love pit bulls, and I had a baby pit bull that died recently, and send love to Callie. We all appreciate it. Yeah, so I grew up with other types of breeds of dogs, and I never thought that I was ever going to have a pit bull until you have one. And then once you have one, it's really kind of hard. They're the best. It's hard to go with. Once you have a pit bull, I feel like it's hard to go to another breed, right? Because they're such amazing dogs. Agnostic, we're halfway there, buddy. There's a religion out there to ease your skepticisms. Gorgeous doggo. Pray to mythical God for your Callie. Ryan, I really appreciate you. Honestly, it's conversations like this that I really do appreciate. I don't pretend to know everything, right? Anybody who does is an idiot. Even if you're extremely well educated, nobody knows everything, right? And you should be open to other people who have other different views, and obviously usually come from a well experienced, educated background. I love to have discussions with that, because I actually, whether anybody wants to truly admit it, when you are proven wrong, right, and you realize that somebody else has the right knowledge and maybe a better view on something, while it kind of sucks at first to realize hey, you were wrong, but now you are now smarter, you are now more educated, and you are better learned. I know these are not words on a particular subject. Everybody wins, right? So why would you not be open-minded to people having a discussion about something you may agree or disagree on? So Raya, I appreciate you. Do you ever use natural stuff on your dog? So it's funny because ever since people found out that she has lymphoma, one of the things that a lot of people have reached out to me about is suggesting sort of natural remedies. A couple people told me about hemp oil, CBD, other things like that. That's supposed to help. So right now we're going through what the oncologist says to do, and then as she gets through she gets chemo every week for 8 weeks. So her most intense portion of chemo is the first 8 weeks, and once we're past that, then we're going to start incorporating into more holistic things, if you will. Jennifer, I appreciate you. Yeah, every time you come back in, just remind me. I'll give you a story. I appreciate you, Jennifer. Feb, adopted. Yes. So Callie is actually adopted from the streets of Baltimore City, right? Callie is actually more gangster than most people. So this girl was living on the streets of Baltimore, had puppies when they found her, and she was about 2 years old when they found her, and she got to the shelter. And I just happened to walk by one day. This was about 9 years ago. And it was right around the time that I was getting off of my operational tempo in the Tier 1 unit, and decided it was time that I was going to have a personal life for the first time. And I happened to go through this one shelter. I saw Callie. She looked at me through her cage. We locked eyes, and I knew I was taking this dog home. And that was 9 years ago. And now she's a horse girl. She loves horses. She runs around with horses all day. And that's why she looks so tired. Actually, not from the chemo. She's tired from running around with horses all day. Do you ever see yourself offering courses in CQB or rifle, pistol, home defense? So, Jim, this is a good question. So, there are people who I feel like are better at this than I am, and there's plenty of dudes who are doing CQB and pistol stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of guys in GunTube who it's their passion. And while I feel like I'm pretty decent at it, it's not my passion, if that makes sense. Like, my passion is like more life lessons, like more the philosophy side of things. If enough people vote on the subject, shit, I'll do it. So at the end of the day, I want to do what people like, the information that they want, like value add, right? But if that's what everybody wants, and if I can add some value there, yeah, I definitely consider doing it. But I don't see, unless it's really what people want, I'm open to it. Yeah. Universal Imperium National Guard has Green Berets. Yes, they do. The Army National, so the Green Berets are the only special operations unit that exists outside of the regular military. It's a pretty cool deal. Caveat, if you have a civilian career, like, you cannot really survive off of National Guard pay and benefits alone, right? Because they're only, I need to stop touching my fucking nose. So that's the only caveat. Like, if you have a civilian career and a civilian life, like, National Guard Green Beret is one, it really is the hidden gem of the soft community, is you get the best of both worlds. In India, Pitbull has bad reputation in India, Pitbull has bad reputation, owners problems. So anybody who also knows in the United States, we kind of have a similar issue. Pitbulls do have a bit of a bad rep, but there's a couple breeds that have bad reps. But I do think that Pitbulls are getting a better rep nowadays, because everybody knows that they're like the sweetest dogs. I think the height of the bad rep was probably when Michael Vick got caught with the dog fighting ring. But ever since then, I think that pit bulls are, everybody's, especially with social media, everybody now understands that, like, that's not actually what pit bulls are about. They're actually super loyal. They're super kind. They're very protective. Thoughts on FRT future? Which one's FRT? No, that's not how you spell it. Is it? Oh, I need to. Oh. So facial recognition technology. If that's my thoughts on facial recognition, it's only getting better. And the things that we used to do to, like, disguises and stuff to help fool facial recognition, that software is getting better, that they can it's getting to the point where you're going to actually see through some disguises. So facial recognition will eventually get to a point that even our traditional disguises are not going to fool facial recognition anymore. All right. I think Callie might be tired of sitting on my lap. You tired? Maybe? No? I think what she doesn't like when I type. Like, bothers her. Would you put a dog on TRT to see how buff she gets? If a doctor would even recommend, technically she's on steroids right now. She's not the traditional steroid. She's on prednisone. Helps her feel better through all the chemo. But, if she wants to get all jacked up and the vet says it's okay, I would be open to it. Give dog food only, vegetarian? No, that's actually the last thing that you should do. Everybody I've talked to, every expert says, like, yeah, you don't do vegan dogs. They need meat. Living with a dog that hangs out with horses, this sounds like a dream. It's honestly, it's, as sad as it is, and you do have to understand, she will not be around forever. Like, it will eventually be her time, just not now. But when your first dog as an adult is like the most amazing dog ever, it's really going to be hard for like when I eventually get another dog. That I will always compare her to her, and honestly, always going to fall short. It's one of the sad parts about dogs and owning dogs. So, let me see here. Okay. We're still good for a little bit. Marianne, you look like Captain America. Well, I appreciate that. Chris Evans is he's an handsome brother. He's a handsome bro, There's worse people I can be compared to, so I appreciate that. Forced reset triggers. Maya, I appreciate you. I was actually going to text you. I was thinking about you today. I just wanted you to know. You and I need to have dinner this week, by the way. If you're around. So, my amazing friend Maya just texted me that she's watching my stream. Coolest lady you'll ever meet. And I'll take that one to the bank. Let's see. Patricia, what's up, girl? Blabla Data, Palantir, DOS, right? Yeah, I actually have a bunch of people who work at Palantir, a bunch of friends. Tony Stark. I'm guessing former Navy SEAL or SAS? No. One, I'm not British, so I can't really fall into the SAS portion. No, I was in Army, Army Tier 1 unit. Bro, Are you lonely? Is that why you live? Why you're alive? No, it's because it's Sundays, and this is what I do every Sunday. We call it Stoic Sundays. Do you think having tattoos has an impact on your chances of selection for Orange? That depends. Okay, so a lot of these Tier 1 units, they have selection criteria, but it changes. So sometimes it depends. Do you have tattoos on your face? If you have tattoos on your face or tattoos in places that you cannot necessarily hide in like normal clothing, it's a possibility it could hurt you, but honestly, the only way you can find out is you try to go that route. So you just put it in your packet, see if they like it. If they don't, whatever, just keep going. Blabladata, is the Army worth it? It can be. So my personal opinion about this is find out what you want out of the Army, whether it's you want to go, if you want to do any specific job in the military, whether you want to be, cyber, special forces, pilot, maybe you want to go Tier 1, whatever it is, figure it out, go do it. And then once you've done it for like 3 to 5 years of the one thing that you wanted to do, then leave. And then take your experience into the civilian world and then actually get properly paid for it. And you actually get more appreciated for those skills than you will by staying in for longer and doing those jobs for longer than 5 years. Just trust me. At every level, whether it's aviation, Tier 1, whatever, you don't want to do that for 20 years or 30 years. Jim Leahy. Are there any podcasts that you would love to be featured on? There'd just be a lot that I just honestly, I just like to talk. I do. There's a lot of people who I really look up to. Obviously, Sean Ryan would be amazing, but I honestly don't think I'm cool enough or my story is, for Sean Ryan. But if that was ever to happen, that would be amazing. I love that dude's podcast. I think he's like one of the things I really like about it is one of the reasons that I left that life, or a lot of those same reasons that he left that life. And that's actually one of the reasons I found his podcast because of how he described leaving that world was kind of the same reasons why I left it. Nutty Professor, are you a model? No, I'm not, but I actually am a sponsored athlete for Barbell Apparel, which is a athletic clothing line. If you guys have not, I'm actually wearing Barbell Apparel dress shirt. So if anybody here has had like nice, like either tailored athlete or Lululemon, like dress clothes, I'm telling you, Barbell Apparel is honestly superior clothing and it looks better too. M.A. White, thank you for your freedom, mate. I know it sounds cliche, but the highest rank I could attain was Eagle Scout. I regret not accepting my acceptance letter to West Point. Yeah, but life takes you in different directions. And you can't live with regret. You just like it happened. This is the path I went, and this is what it is. But also Eagle Scouts is not. It's not easy. I didn't make it to Eagle Scouts, so you already have that on about me. I have 2 sleeves like many other soft dudes. Just wondering, since all the guys I've met from there didn't have any. No, I'm pretty sure you can get in with sleeves. I think you'd be fine. Married or single? I am single. I am not married. We'll leave it at that. Bro looks AI. Well, I will take that as a compliment. Digger. Is 26-year-old a good age to get in the Army and get money experience from it for a guy that has a lot of experiences and no degree? Yeah, honestly, 26 is a good age. I got in at 20. And then I actually went to selection for the Tier 1 unit when I was 26. So 26 is actually a good age. You're still young, but you're also pretty mature. Probably a lot of people that do. So, yeah. I hope that answers your question. Would you have done your 20 if you were in a line unit? To be honest, well, my recommendation is even from the people who did my path to not do the full 20. Just because, especially my last couple years, I felt like I was just waiting to retire. And I felt like if I had been out, obviously there's advantages to staying in 20 and having the pension and having, health insurance and everything like that. But I don't know if it outweighs the number of like the last 6 or 7 years that I left soft to go to aviation when I probably could have just gotten out back in 2018. So I'm not going to sit here and regret it, but I just, as advice, I feel like I could have been already well into my civilian career with like 7 years under my belt and possibly making well more than better money than I was if I'd stayed in. But it's the choice that I made, and no regrets. So this is what we're doing. But my recommendation, like if you want to be as optimized as possible, get in, find out what you want to do it for 3 to 5 years, and then get out. Well, I appreciate everybody thinking that I look like AI. That is a compliment, at least that's how I'm taking it. Facial recognition is probably more of a concern than tattoos. Yeah, but also you can cover up tattoos. Like they actually make really good stuff to cover tattoos, which is also another reason why it's not that big of a deal. But facial recognition software is getting kind of ridiculous. I will just tell you that. Chocolate or glazed donuts? I will take glazed over chocolate. Digger, U.S. Marines get screwed. There's probably, I don't know in what context you're saying that. a lot of questions I can think, possibly, probably. There's a lot of things that they do get screwed on, but I'd have to know the context of that statement. M.A. White, I appreciate you, brother. I will definitely come in with a $4.99. Grab a beer on me, mate. Thanks again, brother. I appreciate you, dude. Bro, are you MAGA? Are you asking what my political leanings are? Ariana Gonzalez, you convinced me. He can play as a hero in the Christmas movies. Man, you guys are too kind. I appreciate you guys. So, well, all right. So we are at. All right, we'll go for another 15 minutes. We're at an hour. We're at an hour and 45. My phone is at 7%. Yeah, dude, John. Yeah, some of these people come in here and the things that people say in these chat is kind of ridiculous. But luckily, we got Tejas, who is he's managing. You know, honestly, the few moderators that I've had in here, like especially Tejas, like it's hard to be. Aureliano, I was not in the Marines. If you don't mind sharing, are you MAGA? Don't have to answer if you don't. So, Jim, is there a reason why you went aviation in your time in SOF? Yeah, so I explained this in my video where there's actually a specific video which actually sort of launched this whole YouTube thing, which was it's like my first YouTube video on this channel, which is why I left Special Forces and then eventually a Tier 1 unit. And I explain in there that somebody pulled me aside at one point and was like, hey, what's your plan? I was like, well, obviously, this is an amazing job. I'm going to keep doing this for the next 20 some years. And then possibly after that, we go to ground branch. And he was like, don't do that. He's like, trust me. I'm like, why? He's like, and basically explained that, you know, everybody who was senior to me was divorced, didn't have a relationship with their children. And when they get done with those 3 years, they have nothing to show for it. They have no personal life. And he's like, trust me, you've done this. It doesn't get any better. You're doing it for that many more years. And go and live and find the best parts of life. And that's one of the reasons why I left. And then aviation seemed like a good way to do it because I've always wanted to fly. Who's never not wanted to fly, you know? Especially if you know how to fly a helicopter, you know how to fly anything. Yeah, Fab. Yeah, I definitely was. I make some mistakes occasionally, and then making that guy a mod for like the 3 minutes that I made him a mod, and then I unmodded him or made it un. Yeah, that was definitely not exactly one of my best moments, but I appreciate you guys. Hello, God bless you, sweetie. Have you been to Area 51? I have not. Can you believe you single two good against Special Forces didn't work out? Try modeling. Well, I appreciate that, Nutty Professor. So your team rotary? Well, unfortunately, in the Army, especially aviation, is majority of rotary. So I went there. I got basic course is the UH-72 Lakota, and then after that, I selected the Black Hawk Mike model. Did you pick your bird? So how it works is they have, based on how well you finish in your class, they have a certain number of slots for certain aircraft, and you get to put you on your wish list, right? So whoever's like top in the class, he usually gets first pick, and so it goes down the roll. So I got the helicopter. I did put Black Hawk for my first one. So I did get what I wanted, but. Military, politics, religion, least divisive live stream out here right now. Raya, I appreciate you. How do you get 50 plus subs to go live? You can tell why he's single after hearing him talk. See? Did you send a pack into the 160th? No, I did not, as a matter of fact. But, you know what? Let's give this, I'm wondering if I grab my charger, if it will even reach. You know what? Well, give me 1 second. All right. We got the charger. And that's not how you do things. So don't crash into things, apparently. All right, we're charging. We're good to go. Anyways. What is your plan right now that you're out? I'm going to be doing a bunch of things. I'm studying to become a private wealth advisor, and then I also have a personal training business that I'm launching. So I've already got a bunch of clients around here that I do in person, but now it's time for me to launch the online portion of my personal training. And then obviously I want to do the YouTube and continue to do the value added channel, if you will. And then whatever people want knowledge on, or if I can provide it, or I can find somebody who can, just want to create a community where I help people. What was your walks class number? To be honest, I don't remember, but I was the first walks class of 2019. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the first walks class because I actually showed up I think 2 days after Christmas on the 2018, and I started January 2019, and I graduated. It's only like a 5-week course. It's like February 2019. I forget which class it was. Are you actually, Joe Lucius, are you actually a Stoic? Or are you actually one of those fake Stoics that just say they are for money? To be honest, I don't even know how you make money off of being a Stoic. If you do, please tell me. But otherwise, I do it for the love of philosophy, if you will, the love of the game. I just really like Stoicism because it's really helped me in my life. Oh, that's funny. I didn't realize that. Yeah. Like I said, I was definitely a pretty big gamer. What's your top go-to sidearm for self-defense? I have, to be honest, for pistols, I have 1911s. I have a couple different 1911s. I got the modern ones. I have a Kimber. Obviously, for self-defense, really hard to replace an AR. I also have a shotgun. But yeah, as far as pistol goes, I like 1911s. When I was in the unit, we used a lot of Glocks, all these different variations of Glocks. We used a lot of different weapons, to be honest. They're all tools. Just tools in a toolbox and you use them. Is Stoic just a part of your name? Yeah. So basically, it just came down to, for the longest time, I've had the moniker, nickname of Viking, and I just got into really big into Stoicism. And so when I wanted to create a brand, because obviously when you create these YouTube channels, you can either do your own name or you can create sort of a brand, right? Like let's take, if anybody who's familiar with Higher Up Wellness, right? That dude's awesome. That dude's nothing about value added, but he has his brand name, which is Higher Up Wellness. And so I decided I was going to do a bit of a brand name and just kind of went with the two things that kind of I liked, and then I just kind of put them together. And it was the Stoic Viking, right? So that's how I came up with it. Nothing too special. No super cool story. Have you had the privilege to meet Alan Mack? I have not. Yeah, it's yeah, John W. I don't. It's around here somewhere. I've got it on something. But yeah, no, you're right. It's not the last one. It's the first. It was the first one of 2019. So I don't remember exactly which one it is. I wish. Raya, can hey guy, can't help that he looks rich. You unfortunately or fortunately look like you own Dalmatians. Those are objective truth. Well, I appreciate that that's the way that I look. I'm gonna take that as a compliment. But as far as Dalmatians go, um, I have not even seen anybody with a Dalmatian around here, and I actually do live in a pretty affluent area. I live in the capital horse country in Virginia. Have you ever worked with Navy EOD? I personally have not, actually. I want to be a nurse overseas, but I would love also serving for my country. You can actually be a nurse in the military. So if that's something you're interested in, or did I misunderstand the question? But I would also love serving my country. Yeah, you can be and you can get like an assignment overseas, whether you're in Germany or you're in Korea. Did you get any parting gifts from the unit of your recent retirement? So when I left fifth group, I got an engraved pistol, a Para Ordnance 1911 with the side by side 45 ammo. So in the grip, instead of holding 7, it holds 14. And then when I left my special missions unit, the tier 1 unit, I got an engraved shotgun. And then, yeah. Uh, Lydia, because that's what it. Well, Lydia, that's an honorable thing to do. You know, if you want to help out people and you want to serve your country, you can definitely do that within the military. They definitely have medical jobs that you could do, and especially go overseas. There's a lot of overseas assignments, especially I feel like Germany, Korea, Japan, depending on which service and what branch you want to join. Joe Lucius, that's a cool name. I like the answer about the love of philosophy. I also like Stoicism, but I wouldn't call myself one. I'm more of a fan of Plato than Stoic authors. That's understandable. Um, you know, like I think that like Plato and a lot of other like people who are kind of like just known as like core of our foundations for philosophy. There's just a lot of you can find a lot of similarities in there, but it's good just to have a good variation of thought. Like even if like for someone who's like oh I like Stoicism, right? Do I believe that the Stoics knew everything? Absolutely not. I think they are a great foundation for people, but you should definitely always be looking at other people, and maybe you can find someone who's a philosopher who wasn't a Stoic, who might even have a better take on something else that you like, or you felt something about it, be like, oh wow, you know, maybe Plato had something better to say on this particular subject. So I think it's very important to always have an open mind and to always study as broad as you can. Like, or else I would never come across anything like Buddhism or anything like that, which I have felt to it's definitely helped me in life. And then most of my family's in the military. I'm about to ship out, and my girlfriend of years just broke up with me. It sucks. Yeah, Leo. But you know what? It's probably as hard to say it is. It's probably a good time for you to ship out because then you're gonna have your mind on completely on something else, and honestly, you'll find someone better. Joe, yeah, that's you know that is one of obviously you are at the whim of the military, but you know that's it's also it can be a bit of an adventure because of it. But that's also another reason why I say I wouldn't do it for 20 years. But if you want to go do it for 5 years, I think it's a good thing to do. Plus, the nuance and esoteric experience that you gain from being in the military is one of the most unique things you can do in this life, to be honest. Raya, I wish that was true. You can be in an affluent area and not be rich, trust me. John W., did you ever specifically ask for those? I would have only gotten a pick. So I did know about the 1911 with the para ordnance, like the side by side stack. I definitely sort of lobbied for that one, but the shotgun from the tier one unit, I definitely did not. I had no idea that they were going to get that for me. From where are you retired? I'm actually retiring in the state of Virginia. Yes, I agree with that, Joe, but at the same time, any other job can shut down, and technically every job is ran by a government. Also, a decent point. Absolutely. See, these are the type of discourse between Lydia and Joe that we got going on right now. That's what we're looking for in this chat. Dakota, what's up? Welcome back. Yeah. So, if any tips for anybody struggling to get back to normal life after dealing with depression and constant self-pity? Well, Jim, that's actually a very good question. Because I'm gonna be honest, I dealt with this at one point in my career, in my life, really. Um, you just honestly, and I've said this numerous times, just take one step at a time. Like every single day, just try to do something that improves your life. Just just 1% every day, 1%. Just do something that improves. And if you do that every single day, you will pull yourself out of it. And then before you know it, you're living a life better than you ever thought. And then you need to be not such a harsh critic on yourself, right? Obviously, be like, hey, I made a mistake, understand it, and then move on, right? Don't continue to beat yourself up. I did. I've done that before. It doesn't help you, right? Just, you can't live with regrets. Stuff happens. Learn from it, move on, and this will then be that story. This will be part of one of the chapters in this amazing story that you get to tell one day of how you became this great person. But this is the crap you went through, right? This is your story. You are the hero of this story, and you just have to do the work every single day. So just concentrate on doing one thing every single day, and you will climb out of it. I promise you. How's your VA claim going? Are you hoping for certain? Well, I'm trying to get 100%. Who's not trying to get 100%? Let's be honest. Raya, getting over philosophical just complicates basic things sometimes. A lot of philosophical writers contradict themselves because they are always dead set in certain ideas. Honestly, you're absolutely right. Because sometimes, what's that common phrase? Is it like don't complicate something, or it's not that complicated? I whatever. I may be completely off base of this, but yeah, some things are just simple. What is it? Occam's razor. Where like the easiest explanation is the most obvious one. I think that's how it goes. But yeah, when it comes down to like certain things, yeah, especially the very artful philosophy can really kind of complicate things when some things are just just easy, very logical. So there's definitely a time and place, and that is a true statement. Absolutely, Joe. I completely agree with that statement because and well, maybe I might be jumping onto something here, but like sometimes, and I made a video about this. It was called I think living life or brute force action, right? Sometimes we, especially nowadays, we live in this super optimized society where everybody just wants everything to be perfect because we can optimize things so well that they just don't, and they're like, I'm just gonna wait till it's optimized. When you just need to get out there and you just need to do stuff, right? Just get it done, even if it's not going to be perfect. Just do it. There you go, delightful. Keep it simple, stupid. That is exactly what I was looking for. See, if I was smarter, I probably would have known that. But I definitely fall into the stupid part of the keep it simple. Hadia Malik, I'll be getting into my dream school this January, fully funded scholarship, even the hostels paid for. Can't be more grateful to God. Well, that's amazing. I, wish you the best of luck. Nelson, when did you know you were over it with the Army? I retired and didn't get over it for 8 years. I know it's too soon for you to know right now, but I didn't realize it was until for about a year. So I would probably say probably around 2001, 2002 is when I knew that I was over being in the Army. The stuff that I had to deal with in flight school just kind of sucked everything out of me. Like I had to write letters to Congress, everything like that, all over having to deal with the threat of being kicked out of flight school because I parked in the wrong parking lot because I pissed off some senior flight instructor who wanted me to get kicked out. It was a struggle. Led me into like my first state of depression, probably the darkest point I've ever been in my life, and all for what? Just because someone didn't like the way my face looked, you know. And then what I realized was just like I'm ready. I'm ready to get out. So, you know, I pulled myself out of the state of depression. Continued to make my life better, and just tried to build my life for success after that. And you know, hope that answers your question, Nelson. Yeah, John W. I like that question. What helped you regain your identity, Nelson? Yeah, answer that for us. St. Charles Travels. I officially gave up 7 years ago. Yeah. I love you, strawberries. Are you married? No, I'm not. His name is Kupender. Lydia, congratulations. Yeah, if nursing is definitely something that you want to do, definitely pursue it. And if you want to serve overseas, you definitely, obviously, I think you're going to have to wait till you're like 18. You might be able to get, I don't know what the requirement is, like where your parents give you permission to join at 17 or something like that. But definitely, if you want to get out in the world and to be a nurse for the military, it's definitely an option. Definitely talk to a recruiter about that. What's the funniest prank that got pulled in the Army, like buds or anything? Like I hear they play major jokes. They definitely do. Uh, I'm gonna have to think about that one. M.A. White. Let me. This might just. It might just one of those things that randomly hit me like later on. So let me remind me later. But I'll be trying to think about this because there might be something I see in this chat that sparks me to think about a prank. What? Just wondering. Would you? Just wondering. You look like you're married. Well, I don't even. I love strawberries. I don't even know what that means. What part? I guess you could take that. I'll take that. I'll take that as a compliment. But what part of me does you think makes it look like you think I'm married? When I was in the military, I was always getting out of the military. Yeah, it's just important not to tie your identity to the military or whatever your profession may be, right? So. Flight instructor was probably intimidated by cause your Chad SF guy. All right, so I will say this, Skeleton King. So whether or not this was a good idea. So obviously I'm coming in. I'm not young. I was actually the oldest person in flight school. And on my chest, I had all my skill badges, right? Including my master free fall wings. And while most of the instructors thought that was like, hey, cool, but I definitely ran into a few, right? It was more an exception to the rule that this one in particular had a Napoleon complex, and he definitely, and he's like, oh, you think you're too cool for school? I was like, no, I'm just here to learn, and just immediately hated me from like day one. And I never knew. And even when I was like, so my father and my sister died that in that same year while I was in flight school, and I actually had to roll out of his class because of my father's illness. And he was telling my fellow classmates after I left, because I just got rolled out of the class so I could deal with my emergency leave to go see my father. He was telling my classmates, he's like, hey, I'm going to get him kicked out. And they're like, what? And then I was getting told by people like this. Like, this man was already determined that he was going to kick me out. And then he's the reason why I got, um, they accused me of parking the wrong parking lot, which is stupid. Do you think you should get out while you still love it, or get to the point where you're ready to get out like you were in flight school? It's a good question. I would actually say get to a point, right? I think get to a point when you feel like, and I feel like this is a good rule of thumb. Obviously, it's not a hard, fast rule, but get to the job that you want to do and do it for 3 to 5 years. And once you've done it for 3 to 5 years, there's really how the military works, whether it's aviation, tier two, tier one, it doesn't get any better. Like if you do it for longer, do it and then get out and then just take those amazing skills and experience that you have, take it to the civilian world, and you'll get paid for it. And take it to where you can get truly appreciated, because even at the tier one levels, right? I'm telling you, like, your life doesn't improve as you get longer in the tooth. So I hope that question. So while it's harder to get out while you still love it, I think that's the best time to do it. Like after you feel like you've done 3 to 5 years in that particular job. I would serve in the Peace Corps, but if only I could carry a sidearm, yeah. I wonder what that's like actually, to serve in the Peace Corps. How often do you cheese? Every day, baby. See, John, it's probably a good statement. And so, in hindsight, I probably should not have worn my badges. It would have, I guarantee you, would have caused me less issues. Because anybody who like was truly wanted to get to know me, and who actually liked that stuff, probably would have asked those questions, and I could have told them about it. Lydia, I can when I'm 18, but the people I spoke with that are in the military, they said that the school I go to for nursing, that when I'm in the army, can pay like my tuition. Um, so are you saying that what exactly, I'm not exactly sure exactly what you're saying, Lydia. Is it you're saying that that the going into the army, like going doing the nursing school in the army, and then it will pay your tuition? I'm not exactly sure. I was never in the medical portion or the medical branch, so I'm not quite sure exactly how that works. But I know that one thing that you can do is you can go to school, and then you can get like student loans, and then the military can pay for it. But I also know that there's professions within the military where they will actually send you to school. So maybe that's exactly what you're talking about. The beard makes you look married. Okay. Well, I personally like my beard. I think I look better with facial hair. My nose itches. I'm sorry. Um, yeah. But, and now that I'm finally out and finally retired, I get to keep my beard all the time. You give me Jason Bourne Blythe, though. I appreciate that. Serving one's country is noble, but the military is not all the way to do so. This is also true. There's many other ways to serve your country. You don't have to do it in the military. Um, it's just probably, yeah, there's other government jobs that you can do. Absolutely. Good stuff. Good stuff. It's hard to replicate the small things like any breakup. You had to be far. You have to find something new to get under. It's hard to replicate love. Yeah. What about staying in for leadership positions? Fab, that's also a good question. Okay. So here's my, and I plan to make a video about this, right? So anybody who's been on this channel long enough knows that I have a big pet peeve with the military is toxic leadership. And there's a lot of toxic leadership in the military. And one of the crappy parts about the military, everybody who is the majority of people who would probably be really good leaders in the military, who'd probably make it better, see the writing on the wall and they leave and they go do other things, right? Because they realize that like I'm not going to fix this, so why stay here, right? And because of it, the people who have nothing else better to do are the ones who stay, and those become the leaders. And that's one of the many reasons why there's a lot of toxic leadership in the military. So unfortunately, while I'd like to say like, why don't you stay to make it better, I don't really know if you can. And so my suggestion to you would be like, if you were in that situation, you're like, hey, I've got a better life on the outside, but do I want to stay so I can be a better leader in the military? Just leave. Do what's best for you. Just don't like that the military is filled with a bunch of 18, 20-year-olds who don't know much, so they go there. Not at all, but a whole damn lot. So I agree with you, Oscar, but here's the thing, all right? So there's this, you probably can look it up. It's like there's this interview with, what's the guy who plays Superman? Henry Cavill. The guy, Henry Cavill, is in an interview and he's got this list of things and he brings it out and he's like, hey, here's these, every time I'm in a bad mood or going through something bad, I pull out this thing and it's like 50 things to remember in life. And one of them, I always remember, it's like one of them touches on like, hey, be careful who you pick as your partner, because it's like whoever you pick as your partner is going to be 90% of your happiness or 90% of your sadness, right? But the other one is like 80% of all, like, whether it's life or jobs, is learning how to deal with people. So one good thing that you learn about dealing with a bunch of 18 to 21-year-old idiots, if you can deal with 18 to 21-year-old idiots, when you go into the civilian life and you go into professional, like the corporate side of things, life is going to be so much easier because you know how to deal with some of the biggest idiots in the military. So there is good training of being surrounded by a bunch of retards. Yeah. Hope that answers your question, or that you can take something from that, Oscar. Did I ever get a chance to do underwater operations school? I did not. No, I never was ever a part of that. My brother was, though. He was an 18 Alpha, and he actually got to go to SF dive school. And actually, I should probably stop saying actually so much. He he became an ODA at 18 Alpha for an ODA, and he actually got to have he got the longer than 2 years because all of his 18 Alpha replacements kept failing dive school. So he actually, I think he had his ODA for 3.5 years. He had a dive team in first group because all his 18 Alpha replacements kept failing dive school. So he got to keep it. And the only reason he didn't have longer than 3.5 years is he got out. Good streams for Boston, dude. All right, Kane. Kane Click, appreciate you. You know what? We've been on this chat for over 2 hours, and the fact that that is now the first Dexter comment. Last time we did this live, last Sunday, I think when I got the constant, people were asking me if I looked like Michael C. Hall or Dexter, like at least 50 times. Yeah, no, it definitely sucks, but unfortunately, you're gonna run into people like that in the military. And it's funny because while I was, you know, in hold while I rolled back from that class, and I was in a hold platoon. It's funny. This one particular, I'm not going to name his name, but this one particular warrant officer. He was a CW3. He was a senior flight instructor. He was one of the senior flight instructors in the Black Hawk course. And when I got to the hold platoon, there was so many people who had issues with this guy and had run-ins, and everybody had a story of this one particular CW3. Jay, I appreciate it. Coolest TDY location. You know what? I got to go. Whoops. So when you're doing free fall, military free fall, you get to go to Arizona quite a bit because there's no better skydiving weather than Arizona because very few clouds. You know, you don't have to worry about rain and stuff like that. And I actually really like Arizona. And we would jump out. We got to stay in Tucson. You can visit Phoenix. You can go up to Lake Havasu, all these different things. I personally really liked doing annual jump trips down to Tucson and down in Arizona. Oscar, hey, appreciate the sub, brother. I try to be. We try to be chill up here. Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. What's your credit score, video watcher? Wouldn't you like to know, brother? Have a blessed energy. Well, it's great talking to you guys, especially but I subbed to you. I hope you have an amazing night. Lydia, thank you so much for you and Joe. Honestly, you guys are awesome. Like this is the type of communications that we want in this chat. Like this is the type of community that we want to build. It's just people just having good conversations. Nobody's attacking each other, sharing their differences, opinions, why they do. And they're like, that's how it's done, right? Unfortunately, because of people like, what happened to Charlie Kirk, but that's like one of the things that those type of people are trying to help is open up the dialogue. And so I just want you to know, I really appreciate Joe and Lydia for having that conversation. I was watching the conversation the entire time. Very impressed. Can I ask how you deal with PTS, bro? I've been going through therapy and it just seems redundant. It gets me worked up more than anything. Well, that's a really good question. And I will try to answer how I deal with it personally, right? So anything that happens to you, whether it's bad, or you obviously mainly, you're not really going to have anything it's not going to be difficult to deal with something that's good, right? It's because it's something that's bad happened to you. It's how you frame it. And what I refuse is to let anything that is really bad that has happened to me change me for the worse, right? Because you can think about it different ways, but like when you come into a relationship, like let's just say that you were hurt in a previous relationship, you have baggage, right? Are you now going to then bring your baggage or your luggage, your issues into the next relationship, and that person now has to pay for what has happened? Or you can take what has happened, because you can't change what has happened, right? It has happened. What can you learn from it, right? Because almost anything in this world, whether how mad or bad it is, you can learn something from it. Take it and then move in it and then use it to help you, not only yourself, but you can use it to help other people. So I take the things that are bad that have happened to me, and I think about how I can use them to weaponize them, to learn those mistakes, to not only help myself, but help other people. So bad stuff, when it happens to you, you can, and this is the difference between heroes and villains. Heroes take what has hurt them and says, never again, and never will I let it hurt anybody else. Or you can be the villain, which is you let the pain define you. I hope that helped answer your question. Retired from what? With the military, brother. I have spent 20 years, 2 months, and 9 days. I can name more than one problem with the military, however, I digress. Enjoy listening to random ramblings that way. Well, I appreciate you, Bouncy Ball. Bouncy Ball, thank you for your service. $10, dude. Bouncy Ball killing with the $10, brother. Appreciate you guys. Wow, you guys are killing it tonight. You guys are almost making up for my lack of pay. Coolest helicopter you've been in? I would probably say I really like. I've gotten to be in a couple Russian helicopters. I think just because you're used to an American helicopter, I think some of the Russian helicopters are cool. So I was in a. I mean, how do I can say this without saying the wrong thing? Let's just say that I was an American unit had a Russian helicopter, and then if you were to, everybody knows the show Pimp My Ride. If they were to Pimp My Ride was to take this Russian helicopter and pimp it out. I mean, like everything, like paint. This thing looked brand new, made it look like it's a civilian helicopter, but had miniguns dropping out of the ceiling on the inside. You know, basically the weapons were hidden. That's probably the coolest helicopter I've ever been in, which is essentially it was a converted Pimp My Ride. I think Mi-17. I think that's the one it was. Um, Life is like a ladder. You can either climb the ladder with your limbs or you can climb down the ladder. It's an interesting analogy. Are you a military guy? I was. I'm now retired from the military, retired from the army. What I mean is that, yeah, don't be aware of what happened. Don't decline it. Use it to make you stronger, which I personally believe that you can. Why did you quit? I didn't quit. I retired. There's a difference. What are your thoughts on the current USA political climate? I think we're very divided, and I think we need to come back to being less divided. I think we just need to respect people's opinions, even if you don't have the same opinion. Like, just because this whole concept of like, let's just say from a dating standpoint of view, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're like, oh, I would never date a Republican or a Democrat. I think that right there is just part of the problem. Like, who gives a crap what your political leanings are? You know, who are you as a person? Hmm. How do you qualify to fly those rescue helicopters? Well, there are certain units that fly them. You have to be in those certain units. Would you recommend the service to your nephew? Yes, I would. And I'll go back to this, and I've probably said this numerous times. Find out what you want in the military, right? Whether it's you want to become a doctor, or you want to do a medic, or you want to be in special forces, or you want to get to tier one, or you want to be aviation. Whatever you figure out what you want to do in the military, figure out what it is, get to it, do it for 3 to 5 years, and then leave. Don't stay. I wouldn't personally recommend spending 20, 30 years, especially if you're going to do it and doing one job that entire time. Just trust me, you're wasting your time. There's a lot of amazing experience you should get, but get it and then get out. That would be my advice to anybody considering the military. There's a lot of amazing things that you can do. Betty officer, I don't know. I didn't think I see your question. Just type it in again. The issue is just blanketed statements about people based on the political. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's the concept of tribalism, right? Right. There's a strong sense of tribalism when it comes to our two political parties, but that's not who you are. Most people, if we had a legitimate third party, like if the moderate, because most people are in the middle, right? And obviously some people may lean, but because we're such a tribal community when it comes to politics, very tribalist. Everybody's either you're Democrat or you're Republican, right? Because we have two major parties. But most people sit somewhere in the middle, right? So if you understand that, then you realize that you have a lot more in common with most people, regardless of whatever political party that they affiliate with. Florida's the military. Was leaving the SF the most difficult job to leave? No, not SF. I would say that the tier one unit where I was at was the hardest one to leave. And I did leave. It actually goes back to your question, John, because I actually technically left when I still loved it. Does it help you? Does the military help you get any of your personal training certs? Did you earn any sort of cap? No, it did not. I'm doing that. I actually am doing. I did that all on my own. Or I'm doing that all on my own. I'm in the process of getting my certifications. Did you have any opportunities to be a test pilot at places like Area 51? No. So, uh, I only did the pilot stuff like towards the end of my career, and I would have had to stay. Yeah, it was never something I was ever going to do. I honestly I left to do the aviation to do sort of like it was the end of my career and it was what I was going to do to finish out my 20 years. And that's why I left to and put in my warrant packet. Yeah. Bouncy ball. It's difficult having conversations when you don't know who's far left or far right. Yeah. United States is the only high-income industrial center. Yeah. Favorite foreign military to work with? I honestly think the Australian SAS are the coolest dudes that there is. I got to spend one of my deployments, I got to spend, I think, a whole month and a half with the Australian SAS. And I learned so much about their culture. One, the proper way to use the word cunt and all of its usually mostly positive connotations. I learned all about cricket, and then anybody who knows Vegemite. I learned a lot about Vegemite and all the different things that you can put it on, and all sorts of other things about. Oh, when you're in a bar in Australia, and what to do when the song Eagle Rock comes on. Learned a lot of different things about Australian culture. You could sell Old Spice deodorant, and I'd buy it. Well, Nutty Professor, I appreciate you. There has to be left before you can far right. There isn't a left. Is there any job you would have pursued knowing what you know now? If I had to do it again, I personally would not have went to orange. I would have went to green. Mainly because I feel like my personality meshes better with over a green or delta, as you will. Absolutely, John. I like the Brits, but I just feel like from it, like I feel like Australians are just we they get us, especially Australian SAS. They just get us, like just Aussies. Like I feel like we're just closer in cultures for a lot of different ways. Aloha from Hawaii, 808, the 808 infamous 808 area code from Hawaii, baby. Would you have only done 3.5 years at Green? Yeah. If and this is honestly this is going with like, hey, yeah, I would have probably done like 5 years because what you want is you want to do only this is because I know this now. You get there, you do your 3 years as an assaulter, and then you would go to one of the other squadrons. I think usually they're sending people to the intelligence squadrons nowadays. And then you get to do the intelligence side of things. And from there, you have 3 years as a Delta Assaulter, like a couple years as like one of their intel guys, like as an operator, and then you're just set up for everything. Like you have the best of the best, and that's like the best time to leave. Like maybe if you want to go back and get on one of the recce teams or you have something specific, but like yeah, like 5 years would have been just amazing. How old are you? I am 40, about to turn 41. Mosen, I don't know what question you had. You're gonna have to type it again. You just saying answer my question doesn't help me. Kicking it with D. What's up? Man, you guys are just like, I don't know what it is tonight. You guys are just hitting me with all the compliments. You're giving me a big head. And I don't know if you can already tell, I already have a massive head. You don't need to keep giving me a big head. But, keep giving the compliments. I appreciate you guys. What about branches? I know the Air Force seems like a dream when sleeping in a hole. So there are definitely some advantages to the Air Force. The quality of life in the Air Force is better. If you want to go to the soft, like some of the best jobs are, like JTACs, PJs. The problem, the downside to the Air Force soft community is the same issue that the SEALs have, right? Which is there is no shooter MOS, right? Like if you join the Navy, if you don't make it through buds, you then get to go to the needs of the Navy. The Air Force, that they also don't have like it's the same thing. Like you can't pick PJ or JTAC. Like you can get the programs, right? And correct me if I'm misleading something. Well, obviously I wasn't in the Air Force, but this is my understanding of those programs is that they're they only select so many people that their their attrition rates are really high in the Air Force Special Operations community. And because they don't really have a job in there that's not those, you'll then go to the needs of the Air Force. That's my understanding of it, and one of the downsides of Air Force Special Operations. But if you're able to get in, every JTAC that I've ever met loves their life. Air Force treats you right. Right, you're right in a way. So politics absolutely matter when you're dating, right? But I'm going back to this being a tribalistic thing, right? So most people, whether you are Republican or Democrat, most people are somewhere in the middle. Um, and so, and there's nothing wrong with dating somebody who has different opinions, right? Especially if you're open-minded, because I actually think it's good to not live in an echo chamber, right? Get out there, experience other people. Because a lot of people who are open-minded and logical, there are their views and opinions are based off experiences they've had. So go out there and find people who have different opinions, because then you can figure out and learn from them why they came to that conclusion, or at least that opinion, and you can learn a lot about their experiences. And so I actually think it's good to date people who may not, you know, or become friends with whatever people who have different opinions than you, especially politically. Just don't demonize them just because they registered as a certain political party. Yes, bouncy ball. So my plan is to continue obviously with YouTube, go into private wealth advising, and do personal training on the side. Also, would you stay in SF to be an 18 Fox? Um, no. Trevor Phillips, I got something real important to say. Say it, brother. Happy birthday gets here. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. Did you ever work with TF White? All right, let me try to remember, because I know I don't like off the top of my head remember all the colors. What was TF White? Definitely not that. All right, apparently I need to type this out in Google. Task Force White. Oh, the 24th STS. Absolutely. So, so the cool thing about the 24th STS is like they deal in both the tier 2 and the tier 1 level, and I dealt with a lot of JTACs, and every JTAC, I don't think I ever met a bad JTAC. They were all amazing guys. Like the 24th STS is an amazing organization. Was green ever comparable to the Intel capability of orange? I feel like assaulters don't make the base case officers. Okay, so John, I'm going to be completely honest with you. That is actually something you'd be completely surprised with. That is, they actually make the best guys, and I'll tell you why. So, the guys that go to Delta, and even SEAL Team 6, right? You have to remember these guys are the creme de la creme. Like to get to that level, to pass those selections, you have to be just a level of human being who's just amazing, right? And obviously, yeah, there's a reason why, like from a Salter standpoint of view, there's nobody better. But these guys are just the best at whatever they do because these are the type of people who just like they just grind. I mean, like they're just another level of human being. So now you give them a new task, which is like, hey, here's intel. Same concepts. Like there's a reason why when you get out of if you're ever in Delta and you get out, civilian companies will look at you as if you were an Olympic athlete because the level that you had to get to, the level of training, the level of focus is the same thing, right? So, now take your Delta Salter who has all these amazing qualities, and now you give them intel. Oh, they crush it. Like Green Intel Squadron. And I actually made a video. Actually, there's a very controversial, it's actually one of my shorts on here. And I specifically, someone asked me a question in a previous live about ISA's intel versus CAGs and SEAL Team 6s. And I actually said that CAGs is better. Now, it wasn't always that case, but. Absolutely, Joe. I completely agree. That's a good question, Skeleton King. Would I have picked Army? Okay, so the only other thing that I think that I would have done besides the route that I won, did going, right, minus the green aspect. But mind you, I was in the tactical detachment in Orange, so but I spend most of my time with green and blue anyways. Would be a fighter pilot, right? Because let me be wrong, flying helicopters is cool, but it's kind of like slow, boring, loud, extremely fuel inefficient. But obviously, in order to be a fighter pilot, you either had to go to the Air Force or the Navy, right? Probably one of the academies. So that's probably the only other thing that I would ever consider because, like, who doesn't want to be an F-22 pilot, right? Or an F-35 pilot, F-18, Tom Cruise, best marketing advertisement for the Navy ever. Who wouldn't want to do that? Because that's also I like the jobs in the military that you can't do in the civilian world. And like one of those is obviously the special operations community. The other ones are like fighter pilots. So that would be something if I could do it again, if I was to do something completely different, 100% fighter pilot. And either probably I think Navy, just because I feel like it's just that much more challenging because those guys actually have to land on aircraft carriers. That would be my personal opinion. Plus, who doesn't I personally think the dress whites look pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's good to like, I feel like everything is nuanced, bouncy ball. So I definitely think it's easy to get boxed into some like very ideological way of thinking. And then once you start to understand that like, there's like most things are like exist within a gray area that, not everything's just right or wrong. Like everything is sort of like some of this is right, some of this is wrong. And then if you were able to do that, you can kind of like do a conglomeration of things that actually are better policies. My brother did almost a 5 word reset about a 5-year deal, and it's a word. Yeah, it's my personal opinion. That's what it's. Honestly, it works every single time. I've yet to see anybody it doesn't fail you. What's the creepiest dream you've ever had? Lava Bro, say hi. I had a dream. So my father died a couple years ago, and I had a dream probably about 2 years ago, where I was on a beach, and it was probably like I don't really dream that often, but I had this really it was the realest dream, and I knew my father was dead, and I was on the beach with him, and it's like he was telling me like from the afterlife of like and we had this and I still remember this conversation like it was yesterday and it feels like it was a person is then we then had a conversation about what I was doing with my life and how he was proud of me and it was like yeah just I get teared up just thinking about it. Absolutely, Joe. Yeah, open-minded for sure. Like, yeah, you guys are still killing this conversation. I honestly don't know what we'd be talking about. Just like looking at you. Well, I appreciate you being a big fan of your cooking videos. Oh my god, you guys are ridiculous. What do you think people are trying to be therapists should further other jobs in what field at the age of 30? What do you think people that are trying to be, oh, okay, try to be a therapist should further either jobs in what field at the age of 30? To be honest, I actually don't really know the answer to this question. Um, but I do think it helps as a therapist to have life experience. You know, it's like one of those things like you have somebody who's went to school to be a therapist, right? And then obviously they understand a lot of concepts. And now I'm saying that somebody who's like, let's just say you're brand new out of college, let's say like done all the things, done all the internships, like 25, 26, you can still be a great therapist, but I think you're a better therapist when you have life experience. There was a DevGru Intel guy that said on a podcast that one of the Intel squadrons had their reputations ruined because they were caught 2 times. Any idea? I don't know if that has happened. Remind you, I left the unit in 2018. So anything that's happened after 2018, I don't really know that much about it, to be honest. This may be a dumbass question, but what were you do? But I mean, I think I'm going blind. This may be a dumbass question, but what were your day-to-day hours in Delta? How looked up the Keem to 3 a day? Okay, so clarification. I was not in Delta. I was in a different Tier 1 unit, commonly known as TFO or Orange. And I was in the tactical detachment, which I was then did most of my time assigned and attached to Delta and SEAL Team 6. So I have a very unique perspective because I spent most of my time with all three. I spent a lot of time with all three main Tier 1 units. Yes, RRC and the 24th STS are technically Tier 1 units, but the three big ones is Orange, Blue, and Green. And I spent time with all three of them. But so I was always a guest, right? I was attached to, detachments within Delta, if you will. So I spent a lot of time there. So as far as their day to day, they pretty much they shoot almost every single day. Uh, Basically, they're just training also every single day, and they have all the facilities that they need to do and train on all their skills every single day. And that's why they're so good at everything that they do because they train every single day. Absolutely 808. Yeah, there's just a whole different, it's just a whole level of dude. Like whatever CAG assaulters, even SEAL Team 6, even DevGru assaulters, you put them to a task, but I would just slightly put CAG just because it's a slightly more mature organization. Um, they are just they anything you put them to, they are good at it. Like they're just amazing. Bouncy ball, I appreciate that. Yeah, dreams are good. Did you work with Joe Kent? I did actually. Well, I didn't actually work. I knew Joe Kent. I didn't actually ever work with him, but we were there at the same time. One of my favorite things is having ChatGPT interpret my dream like Carl Jung. Right. So what do you do when you get done with the dream? Do you immediately just like get on ChatGPT and just like describe the dream that you had? Because honestly, I never even thought about that until now, to seeing what ChatGPT would say about a dream. GR3, sup man, just going through here. What do you guys chat on here? We're chatting about being probably the biggest thing is being open-minded about a lot of the issues within the United States, talking about military stuff, life, how to be better at life, how to have better philosophies, have better concepts. I don't know. Maybe you guys can answer that question better than I can. First Newport of the morning. Um, let's see. I've heard from the meetings that people in the afterlife can reach us in our dreams. One foretold my unusual future exactly. So I tend to believe now. It's like one of those things, and we've talked about this before. You know, you know, being open-minded, right? Are there ghosts? Is there a higher power? I don't know. It's really hard to say no definitively. It's really hard to say yes definitively. But, wouldn't it be cool that if, our loved ones could reach out to us? Absolutely. Who would love to believe that? Um, is it a possibility? Yeah. Whether or not, I don't know. Hi, dude. I'm from India. Like your style and clearly asking back. Yeah, I just use this as like an opportunity to talk to people. I honestly, when I started doing these lives, I had no idea what this was going to be like. And to be honest, this is some of the most fun that I've had. I just enjoy talking to people and having conversations, especially with the people that are just who generally want to have a discussion, right? In a logical, good faith format. And this is just like awesome. And I like the coolest part is some of these conversations that are the best ones in here, I'm not even a part of. I'm just watching these. You guys are crushing it. Do you think it's foolish to go into the SF starting an army in your 30s with no service experience? No. If you have a goal of what you want to get out of the military, because there's a lot of things that you can do in the military that you can't do anywhere else, go do it. There's a lot of amazing experiences you can get out of the military. So don't, age is just a number. If you are still, you can still do it regardless of your age, go do it. Go do it, find it, get it, and then leave. That's my advice. And I appreciate you. Just hit the like button and subscribe. Appreciate you guys. You guys are killing it tonight. I love it. We love in weird times. Hard not to be cynical these days. Yeah. Well, I think being cynical is good. Greeting from south of France, Isabel. Hey, glad to have you here. Do you think you would have passed the long walk in selection for a similarity physical for what you understand? Yeah. And Orange refer to ours as the short walk, and theirs is the long walk. I like to think that I would, but um, just because I'm not the type of person who quits at anything, but who knows? I'd like to think that I would have made it, but you really can't say that until you actually did it. And I didn't actually go to Delta selection. So when I was in the process of whether or not I was going to drop my warrant packet, I actually did get an invite to go to Delta selection because I was spending so much time at Delta, and I was specifically with C Squadron. And C Squadron guys were like, "Hey, we think you'd be really good here." And so I had an option. And one of the main reasons why I didn't end up doing it, because right around the time that I was getting ready for possibly going to Delta selection or going to flight school, I think it was 32. And I remember, so I trained up for ISA selection when I was 25. So now here I am, 32, about to be 33, and I'm doing the same train up because it's a similar train up. My body was not responding to it. And I think one of the main reasons was I had to be honest with myself that at 32, I wasn't getting any younger. And it was definitely at 25 or 26 when I went through ISA selection would have obviously been the best time for me to go to Delta selection. But at 32 years old, it was getting my body back to that level. I was not hitting the weekly benchmarks for the ruck train up for the Delta selection. And then that's when I had basically had to make the decision: do I go to flight school or do I go to Delta selection? And I made the choice to go to flight school. Whether or not that was the right decision, it's the decision I made. So it is what it is, and I live with it. Question: if you're about to be 30 with no job, what's the best way to retire? I don't even understand that question. What is this stream? I'm not a native English speaker. Sorry if I sound weird. What is this stream? So this is just a stream. So guys, I am obviously I have a YouTube channel, and former military, former special operations, tier one, and I'm really big into philosophy and stoicism and having open discussions with people. And I just retired officially at 20 years in the service as of yesterday. So this is what we're all discussing. I immediately make a note of the dream, and then I'll be in ChatGPT later. It's so fucking cool. Honestly, Ryan, I really like this idea. Next time I have a dream, I'm gonna do it, and then I'm actually gonna make a video about it, and I'm gonna tag you in Araya, just because you're the inspiration of my. We're gonna have my first dream video or first dream discussion about what ChatGPT says about my dream. I think it'll be a fun little exercise. Whether you agree with the military does as far as what the task is, you should always stand behind the guys you have out there fighting. Yeah, you also remember that the people in the military don't make the decisions of as far as the government, where they go and stuff like that. They just do essentially the job that they've been told. Do you ever work with Kyle Morgan from B Squadron? No. Well, I worked with B Squadron once, but I only worked with them once, so I honestly really didn't learn that many people. I did most of my time I worked with C Squadron just because that's where I was on the Jort cycle. Would you ever consider for running for some sort of office or elected government? I think I've always thought about that. I think it would be really cool to like be a congressperson. Whether or not I have too many skeletons in the closet, that's another story, or that's another thing. But maybe that's a thing nowadays. With Trump being, maybe it's good to have, things that you've done. I don't know. I definitely consider it, but to what end, right? It has to be something that's worth it. Am I actually going to make a difference? That's another story. One of my customers was the lead pilot of Blue Angels. That's amazing to be like that level of precision in a pilot for the Blue Angels. Like this, that's impressive. I feel like that's like the tier one level of aviation. Any thoughts on the special collection service and how do they compare to your unit? All right, let me just double check what I believe what you're talking about. Oh, okay. 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 Let's see. Give me a second before I even. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that I know what we're talking about. So, all right. Any thoughts? Okay. I don't know if I can answer this question. This is a bit of a sensitive subject. Because in order for me to answer this question, I would have to say something, and I'm pretty sure that I can. So, let's just say that it's a part of what they do. Like they all work together. Let's just leave it at that. Sorry, that's a very sensitive subject. Like they're actually more involved with each other than you think they are. Mr. Michael, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Raya. I appreciate it. Did 30 and now, Joe, I just seem to relate more with these SF soft guys that I get out of versus all the people I work with. The social media foolery, we went from caring about the country to sexualization scams. Well, you're not wrong, Chris. What do you think about Marcus Aurelius? He was the first Stoic I read, and he was very cool to see what the thought about. Oddly, very felt connected to a guy from Roman Empire times. It's wild. So, interesting thing about what I find ironic about Marcus Aurelius. So, he comes at a time which people, I forget the exact term, but it's essentially, it was known as the golden era of Rome, where you had these like five Roman emperors in a row who were just like, they were like the best emperors, like all in a row. And then eventually gets to Marcus Aurelius. And one of the reasons why all these emperors were so good, or one of the main reasons, was because they had this system, and I forget exactly what it's called, but how they would pick their successor, and they would not actually pick their successor based off of, if they were related to them. They pick who they actually thought was the best person, and then they would adopt that person. And a lot of time, these emperors were adopting grown ass men, and then that would then become their successor, right? And Marcus Aurelius was the last of this line, and Marcus Aurelius was probably at all the emperors the best emperor that there was, for a lot of different reasons. He was just like so selfless, so thoughtful. But the ironic part is his single choice was to screw up this whole process of picking the best man, regardless of who they were related to. And instead of continuing that process, which he'd been a part of, that's when he made the famous, huge mistake, which some would argue would lead, the downfall of the Roman Empire, which was he actually picked his actual son, Commodus, who was a very immoral man. Obviously, he's featured in the movie, what do you call it? Gladiator. But it's my understanding he was actually worse. He was even worse in actual history. And this amazing man, Marcus Aurelius, had all these amazing thoughts. But the last thing that he did was like one of the most messed up things, which was not picking some other person who was better for the job, and then pick Commodus, which was, for what did as a prophet a man to me in the world? Bouncy Ball, your military experience and stoicism would make a good combo. Aurelius and Cato the Younger were soldiers too. Or you can talk about philosophy and politics. Nick Freitas. You know what? Actually, I'm a big fan of Nick Freitas. I love his channel, and I love where he always does like all the satire with a coffee cup. I think he's one awesome. And he's actually a state Congress person in Virginia. I hope he makes it up to, becomes an actual like national level congressional member, or even a senator one day. Nick Freitas is awesome. Hey, piano lovers, I appreciate you. Thank you. Sensitive, don't give us the rundown. I wish I could. No, you're good. I will just look, obviously, there are certain things that I can or cannot talk about. It's just like the nature of being, especially at that level, at that organization. And I just trust me, not that I want to just devote, I like to give people things that, that help them, right? But there are certain things that, for various reasons can't be talked about. So unfortunately, I feel like this falls into that. So, yeah. What? Did we just hit 5K subs? Is that what happened? Piano lovers? Bro, are you number 5K? Because I think when I started this stream, holy shit. Yeah, when I started this stream, I think we were at 4,930. Did we hit 5,000? You look like a Navy SEAL. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. Marcus was in the shadow of the greats, and I think he knew that. You can see it in the writing. Too bad he chose the wrong successor, yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I've shown this before. This sits at my bed. This is Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. This actually sits by my bed. Toronto, sorry. TR3, I live in Toronto, Canada. I want to move to the US within the next 5 years. What are the top three states would you recommend? Oof, one, that depends. Two, I'd probably say avoid California. Probably avoid New York. It also depends what you're coming in for, right? I think I actually personally like Florida. I think Texas is a cool state. Colorado. Some of these states have gotten expensive though. Like there's a lot of cool things. It depends. Like, do you like cold weather? Do you like warm weather? Do you like seasons? Right? Because you gotta remember, like, especially as you guys know, like, especially compared to Europe, like the United States is basically a continent. You know what? I'm gonna have to look up this Ryan Holiday too. I don't know if I've actually seen him or not, but Good morning from Sweden, Aurora Borealis, the Nordic light dancing in the sky. I actually got to go to Tromsø, Norway, and one of the coolest things I got to do, obviously, we did dog sledding, we went snowmobiling in the Lingen Alps, and then we actually chased the Northern Lights, and obviously, we were able to see them. It was actually really cool. Still to this day, one of the coolest trips I've ever done. Appreciate all of you guys. You guys are awesome. Did you ever get to work with Chris Van Sant? Why does that name sound really familiar? Yeah, he was in Sea Squadron. What years was he there? He looks really familiar. I'd have to look at this. He looks familiar, but maybe I've just seen his picture before. It's hard to tell. But yeah, if he was in Sea Squadron, there's definitely a good possibility that I worked with him. But I'd have to look at exactly what. Oh, you know what? I think no, he probably wasn't there when I was there, but I do now that I see this. He was definitely on the Sean Ryan show, and that's probably where I recognize him from. Yeah, the problem with California is Californians, but the state is probably one of the coolest, best states there is. It's just the problem with the people who live there. Islam versus Christian, which one should I follow and why? Is there a third option, which is not to be religious? I feel like that might be slightly better, but I don't know. There's a couple different theories and literature based off. There's an interesting book, and it's called Jesus versus Muhammad, and it's a book that studies the different how Jesus and Muhammad talked about different subjects, and it's interesting to see the different parallels and how either contrasting or even contradicting or different they were in specific subjects and areas. Like I think when they got to the subject of war, the enemy, Jesus was like, love thine enemy, and Muhammad was like, destroy that his family, destroy his cousins, destroy everybody who's related to him. So it's you can kind of see some of the differences in the teachings, but you also have to remember that Muhammad was a warlord. Um, all right, guys, if you're gonna spam shit in here, you are going to be fucking blocked. Yeah, Chaos, you're already over it. Hawaii is perfect. 80% warm. Oh yeah, Hawaii. Hawaii is also a good place, but that is far as fuck. That's the only problem with Hawaii. So if you live in Hawaii, it's really hard to visit anybody in the fucking United States. Unless they live on the West Coast. Anything else past that, you might as well be fucking living in fucking China. Oh yeah, I would probably say the coolest city in the entire United States is San Diego. I would 100% agree with that. Jacob plays. What did you do? I was an operator of a tier 1 unit. What squadron were you in? Uh, just because of the nature of the unit, I can't actually say what squadron I was in. You don't really need religion if you study philosophy. I personally would agree with that statement. Personally. Yeah, there's plenty of ways to interpret the Bible and others' texts. It's hard to have conversations about conclusions without a lot of knowledge and reading. Also, very true. Yeah, you just have to be. Unfortunately, with any of these things, you have to be as educated and as well read as you can be to have the best, you know, the most thorough opinion, or at least have it try to have as best of an opinion. But you can make an opinion about it what little knowledge you have. But the most important thing is to have continue and trying to get the knowledge and continue educating yourself on these subjects that you continue to talk about, because once you've reached a certain level you should always continue continuously strive for more education in any particular subject. So yeah. All right. Well, we are coming up on 3 hours and 15 minutes. What time is it? Oh shit! It's about to be, or 1 minute from midnight in Eastern Standard Time. You look like my third period teacher. Shelzing. So yeah, so what I want my channel, so the videos that I already have, I can pull some of these up. Let me pull up. So I want to do videos as much as I can about subjects that I think that I'm knowledgeable on that would actually help people to either make decisions about certain things. So right now I'm okay. All right, we have put on my Google Keep right now. So I have a whole section listed to upcoming subjects that I want to do videos about. Um, and a lot of them is just like helping you to be better, not just like things in the military, which is obviously things that I've done, but in life, right? So one of them would be like mindset and mentality and how to embrace the suck. How I made the transition from special operations to aviation, special operations units that I've worked with, nutrition workout routine. So I've already done a nutrition video and I'm actually in the process of doing a workout video. And that's currently what I'm doing because at 40 years old, I'm actually in the best shape of my life. And a lot of the things I've done is how through the workouts that programs that I'm currently doing. And I also talk about the things that I've evolved through that I'm doing because I've done everything. I've done CrossFit, I've done hypertrophy, I've done strength-based lifting, I've done power lifting, all that is in the above. Learning how to becoming comfortable being uncomfortable. Mental drive needed to make a Tier 1 unit, SRFE and SFAS prep, pretty much rucking stuff, nutrition. Well, we already did the nutrition video, but I also wanted to do videos of like really cool recipes that I've learned that really help me to keep my caloric intake below a certain level, but also hitting my protein goals. So I hope that answers your question. So BZ tax. So interesting that you say Johnny Bravo. So when I was in fifth group, my call sign was Johnny Bravo. Funny story. All right, I'm just trying to catch up. It's a very narrow-minded. Like I said, Raya, like I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying it's an example of a book that I wrote. And obviously, you have to you and this is a I feel like this is a good point to make. anytime that you're reading a book, you have to understand that every person, whether they know it or not, has some sort of a bias. So anytime that you're reading a book, you have to maybe understand or at least take it with a grain of salt just to know that every person who writes something, there's some sort of level of bias in it, whether it's conscious or not. Um, and I think that's, and I definitely think there's probably that book, which is Jesus through Muhammad versus Muhammad, was definitely someone who it was written by somebody who's in the bias versus Jesus, if you will. How did you get through the long walk? So I actually didn't, Mr. Kellenheller. I actually didn't do the long walk. I did the short walk. If you know the difference. SAS versus PJs, who's better? Those are completely two different jobs. Like SAS and PJs is not even. So PJs are medics. Like SAS is a counter-terrorist organization. Those are completely two different jobs. So you really can't compare those. Big question: do you unwillingly help people who need help but don't ask for the help? Well, it's hard to help people who don't want help. I will say that, but I always try to help people. Rucking and running is probably my biggest concern, which is the biggest factors for selection. I've always been to fitness, avoided cardio to not lose weight with a fast metabolism. Yeah, to be honest, you just have to do it, right? And you don't have to do it every single day, and nor would I actually recommend to anybody to ruck and run every single day, but you do have to do it at least once a week. I would at least run once a week, and I would ruck at least once a week. Could you do the short walk again if you had to do it again? Yeah, it would suck. Well, it's like with anything, like you really do need to train for it. Um, because if you don't train for it, not that you wouldn't do it because you wouldn't quit. Question is, would you injure yourself? Because that's a big problem. That's really what gets a lot of people in these long walks because you get these really awesome tier two operators who have the mentality that they'll never quit. But then the long walk and other things that you do in that selection are so stressful that if you are not physically prepared, you'll injure yourself and then you'll just get medically rolled or medically dropped. So I guess the answer to your question, if I trained up for it, I could probably do it again. Scouting as podcasters have been hitting you up. Yes, as a matter of fact. But I told the few that have reached out to me already that I have to wait till I retire. But now that I'm retired, I'm about to sign up for a couple and I'm going to get on their schedules. But no, Sean Ryan has not reached out to me, nor do I think, honestly, don't think I'm cool enough to be on Sean Ryan, but I appreciate the thought. Yes, more like, yeah, it is, yeah, right. It's very biased. Any story that sticks out when you were at SFAS? Once. Okay, being at a high level, I always hear people say you need to. Um, so I have some funny stories about. I do have some funny stories about selection, but I have to think about which ones I can actually tell. Being at your high level, I always hear people say you need 10, 12-minute pace with a ruck. Can you make a video on technique to do it? Yeah, I can actually make a rucking video just because I feel like I definitely got pretty good about rucking, and I have some opinions. It's just the things that worked for me when it comes to rucking. I actually think that is in here, but let's see if it's not. Let me add it to the list if it's not. Yep, run rucking and improving rucking skills. That is actually one of the lists that's in here, alongside of pull-ups and running and the SIF organization and the SIF companies and Jedburgh teams, civilian jobs after the military and special operations. History and birth of SOCOM and most special operations units. These are all subjects. Yeah. What is okay? I don't want to give away whose podcast I'm going to be on next, but let me look up what his thing is actually called. Okay. All right. I'm not going to give that one away. Let's see. Okay. All right. It is officially after midnight, and about to start my first week of not being in the military, which is awesome because nobody can now bother me or tell me what to do or where I need to be. So we've got a lot of things to do this week, and I've been saying this for a couple weeks, but I had to deal with the whole retirement thing to finish the workout videos. So we're doing that this week, and then we're gonna get back on a posting schedule. And you guys have been awesome tonight. Honestly, I really cannot begin to tell you how this is probably the best live that we've had, and I've just really enjoyed it. Everybody's been extremely professional. Everybody's been extremely gracious with the debates and the conversation. So I really appreciate everybody. Um, so you guys have a great night. Thank you for joining me on the night after my official retirement from the military. And I will definitely talk to you guys later. I appreciate you, Feb, John, W, Skeleton King, Joe, Lucius, Raya. All you guys have been killing it tonight. I really appreciate you. VZ. All right, good night, Raya. Talk to you guys later.